is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios. Streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. We are live out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena for the last time this season. The Predators season finale tonight, taking on the Colorado Avalanche tonight at 7 o'clock. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starting at 6 o'clock on 102.5 The Game. Preds get a win last night in overtime. 4-3. A nice little Yuso Parson and 1-2 little trick shot.
It was nasty.
It was nasty.
Filthy.
And he knew it, too. He was feeling himself.
Hey.
Feel yourself.
Go ahead, young man. Feel yourself.
Talk your talk.
Hey, listen. You guys have, went above and beyond what many thought y'all would after the trade deadline. So, do your thing, young man. Do your thing.
Do your thing. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Jeffrey Simmons' agent, Paul DeRussell, will join us in 1 hour. So we'll get his insight on exactly how the deal went down, some of Jeffrey Simmons' priorities getting this deal done, how the experience was working with Rand Carthon. So we'll get into all of that with Jeffrey Simmons' agent, Paul DeRussell, in 1 hour. But I want to start with this, because it's not only draft season, it's not only mock draft season, but with those seasons also comes rumor season.
Yes.
Lying season. Yeah. Dropping little tidbits to agents and to the national talking heads in order to get stories out there, in order to make people think you're doing one thing and then you do something different. It is how do we, it's smoke signal season, if you will. And there's another one. There was yet another rumor tidbit that was dropped yesterday from Adam Schefter on NFL Live. And I think that we all feel pretty confident, right, in 1-2. Carolina taking a quarterback. Houston Texans at 2. To me, I viewed that, like, the number 2 spot was the Houston Texans. To me, I viewed that as the Houston Texans are taking a quarterback. Because if they're not taking a quarterback, then who the heck is their quarterback? Davis Mills? Have another 2 or 3 win season?
Yeah.
But there could be a wrench thrown in all of that.
Yes.
Things may have been shaken up just a little bit. Adam Schefter went on NFL Live yesterday and dropped this bomb about the Houston Texans.
I think there's a lot of conflicting signals and information out there about what Houston is going to do at 2. And I think a lot of people have assumed it's just going to be a quarterback. And in the end, I'm just not convinced just yet that that's going to be the case. Now, I do think that we have Bryce Young slated to be the favorite, number 1, Carolina. Then Houston's on the clock. And what does Houston do? And it becomes interesting if Houston decides to auction off that pick to somebody who wants to come up and trade for a quarterback at number 2, or whether Houston wants to go with a quarterback of its own, or whether Houston wants to go with one of the top defensive players. All I'm saying is I don't think it's a lock that Houston is going quarterback at 2. That's all I'm saying.
Not a lock that Houston is going quarterback at 2. Whoa. Your initial reaction, D-Mase?
You just never know. With, entering the draft. It's because you see a team in the Houston Texans and you just assume, okay, Carolina, we know they're taking a quarterback because they need one. And then you look at the Houston Texans, and from our, looking through our glasses, we think automatically, oh, they need a quarterback too. But Houston may be looking at it from a different direction. They got a new head coach who was more of a defensive-minded coach. And coming from a system that prioritized defense first, and it got them, to the Super Bowl with that defense. Beside, regardless of how the quarterback played, we all know that a lot of times it was because of their defense that they were able to get as far as they did. Now, the quarterback situation in San Francisco wasn't bad, but it wasn't the greatest either. It wasn't like they had a franchise quarterback.
It was surprising.
Exactly. So they were able to do it sort of old school style, play really, really good defense, run the ball, and just don't mess it up from the quarterback standpoint, and that would at least get us to the Super Bowl. So when you're looking at the Houston Texans, who, by the way, not only did D'Amico Ryans come over from the San Francisco 49ers, but also he brought over, at the time, their offensive passing game coordinator, Bobby Slowick. Slowick, that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
So he's bringing in a system that was similar to the system in San Fran. And we all know that under Kyle Shanahan, anybody you put at that quarterback position seems to sort of overachieve in a sense.
Totally.
You seem to get more out of them than what another team may have gotten. So they bring over the pass coordinator from that team. He brings him with him. They're maybe thinking, hey, listen, we got 2 first-round picks. We need more than just a quarterback. We understand that the quarterback position is a position of need, and every team is fighting or jockeying trying to get their quarterback. But we're in a unique position that we have 2 first-round picks. Say if we like Will Levis, C.J. Stroud, and Hendon Hooker. Well, we can use our second pick in the draft and draft the best player. You got to remember, who's the head coach? D'Amico Ryans. Defensive guy. The best player in the draft overall, who? A defensive player, and Will Anderson. It's hard to pass up a guy like Will Anderson because they, just like C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, those guys come along maybe once every 5-7 years. A guy like Will Anderson is the same way. These guys come maybe once every 4 or 5 years. So if you got an opportunity to get a guy like that, and you are a defensive-minded coach with 2 first-round picks all within the top 12, then you may look to, go with the best player available that you need, which is Will Anderson. And then at 12, you might, if you like Hendon Hooker that much, then you move and you take Hendon Hooker with that pick, knowing that he's going to sit for a year. But I do believe Davis Mills, under this system, he will be a much better quarterback. He won't have the mistakes that he made because his thing was he was a good player.
Yeah.
He just threw too many interceptions. And we can say, well, he didn't have receivers to throw to. His offense was dismal, so maybe that contributed to a lot of it. And maybe Houston is looking at it from that standpoint as well. Like, listen, we got a coordinator in here that we believe can help Davis Mills. And he can be their Jimmy Garoppolo. And they can have that defense they had in San Fran, which led them to a Super Bowl. So I can understand why, potentially that is out there. Now, I'm not saying they will not draft a quarterback with the second pick, but I'm looking at it from the alternative.
I don't buy it.
I mean, I
don't buy it for a
but
single
it's like I'm giving you both sides of it.
Totally. And if that's going to come out, then when I first heard that, I thought, okay, so from Houston's perspective, what would be the advantage of either trading out of number 2 or not taking a quarterback at number 2? Will Anderson is a generational talent. And D'Amico Ryans is a defensive-minded guy. I totally hear all of that. You're not wrong in any of those points that you just made. But I'll always go back to, then who is your quarterback? I looked at the Texans drafting Davis Mills. What was it, like in the 3rd or 4th round?
3rd round.
3rd round. That was the first pick that they had in the draft. To me, I looked at it like, okay, well, we need a quarterback. Deshaun's not quarterbacking for us, so we just need a quarterback, and we'll just take the best possible quarterback available, and it's Davis Mills. Whenever they drafted Davis Mills, I looked at it like, this is just the quarterback to get you to the next quarterback, and if he works out and he's great, then wonderful. You found your quarterback of the future in the 3rd round. I never saw the Houston Texans pledging their allegiance to Davis Mills because of the situation that they had with Deshaun Watson, with the lack of draft picks. So I think that they want to find that quarterback of the future. If I'm D'Amico Ryans and I'm looking at the head coaching positions with the Houston Texans being a revolving door over the last few years, I'm looking at it like, look, my job is not very safe for very long because the recent history would show me that Houston Texans coaches don't have their jobs very long. And what's the best way to make sure that your job is solidified, or the best way to make sure that you lose your job, is the quarterback position. So if I'm D'Amico Ryans, I'm looking at it like, yes, Willie Anderson is a generational talent. Yes, trading back in the draft and picking up a solid defensive player, maybe a Hendon Hooker, maybe quarterbacks that don't have as high of a caliber as a C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. You can pick up more picks and continue to build your team for the future. But it's that quarterback. If you look at C.J. Stroud and you're like, that's our guy, or Bryce Young, whichever quarterback falls to number 2. And these quarterbacks really are the quarterbacks that all of these NFL draft gurus are saying that they are, then you got to go for it. You got to get your guy of the future. You have to have your quarterback security, because as good as Will Anderson is, he doesn't play the quarterback position. He's not going to give you the same long-term security that a quarterback could get you. So I can't buy it. Just like when we heard the idea that the Texans weren't going to draft C.J. Stroud because of the agent.
Exactly.
He has the same representation that Deshaun Watson had. They don't trust Deshaun Watson's representation, which if Houston doesn't, I don't blame him. But I just don't believe it for a second that they would pass up on C.J. Stroud for that reason. And I can't believe for a second that they would pass up on the opportunity for a really talented quarterback and going somewhere else in the draft.
Well, yeah, it's hard to fathom that, you are in a position at the number 2 spot to draft one of the 2 top quarterbacks in this year's draft. And if Carolina, goes out and they get, Bryce Young, are you that sold on C.J. Stroud that you're going to take him at the 2nd spot? Or if they take C.J. Stroud, are you that sold on Bryce Young that you're going to end up taking him with the 2nd spot? I know one thing they're probably sold on is that Will Anderson is a hell of a player.
Yes,
and there's no defensive player in this year's draft like him. Only guy that comes close is Jalen Carter. So to me, he may have convinced the owner and the GM that, hey, listen, I've been at a franchise where we had a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. We had a good quarterback, but we had a great defense and a really good run game, and that led us to the Super Bowl, or that led us to an AFC Championship game. He may have convinced them that, hey, listen, this is the route we can take. We are going to get our quarterback eventually, but right now, if you're talking about building a team, because they may look at it from this standpoint. We go get our quarterback, we have nobody around him, our quarterback's going to be horrible. It may mess with his mental in a sense of him progressing as a quarterback, or do we go out and build a team and then eventually get our quarterback, but knowing that Davis Mills, under this system that we have, knowing that in previous systems that I've been in, we've been able to operate without a quote-unquote franchise quarterback, and we've won a bunch of games. So maybe we can go down the road of building up our roster, because the roster's not good, building up our roster, having Davis Mills as that guy for now, and then eventually going down, maybe a year or 2, or you draft a quarterback this year. If Hendon Hooker is still on the board, you find a way to draft Hendon Hooker and you make him your quarterback. Because to me, Hendon Hooker projects as a starter in the NFL, a highly capable starter in the NFL that's going to win you a lot of games. Well, if that's the case, if I'm Houston and I'm thinking that way, well, let me surround him with a bunch of guys and then get him with either that 12th pick or possibly in the 2nd round.
I just have such a hard time.
I know, I do too. I know.
I'll go back to what you always see, D-Mase.
Yes. Gotta get your quarterback.
Gotta get your quarterback.
Yes.
And another thing that I want to get into coming up next, if this is all just a smokescreen from Houston, what are you getting at? Like, what's the point? And also, could that be the best possible thing for the Tennessee Titans? We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts. Adam Schefter went on NFL Live yesterday and said, from what he has heard, he's not quite convinced that the Houston Texans are going to either stay at 2, or if they do stay at 2, draft a quarterback at 2. Do you buy it? We'll get your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, the game.
when it comes to Nashville sports.
Blocking out Jeffrey Simmons, clearly that was a priority for them.
He knows his stuff.
A little bit good, a little bit bad.
And knows how to push the right buttons.
He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's 25 years old, so you cannot ignore that.
Join Outkick's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company. Withrow.
What I hate more than anything is people that are phony and not true to themselves.
Is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's Quaz with Little Harpeth, and I'm just having one of our Chicken Scratch American Pilsners. It's one refreshing beer and a good example of the German lagers that we craft right here in Nashville. Chicken Scratch is made with locally sourced raw white corn, giving it a subtle cornbready sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, Chicken Scratch's closest associate goes by the name of Deer Crossing Hellas, also a lager with a light crisp body and golden color, and it won us a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. So be on the lookout for our craft lagers. And as always, thank you for supporting our little brewery.
You want a mower that delivers a quality cut and an exceptional ride. You need the Kubota Z200 series with the new K-Ride comfort system, designed to give you everything you need to glide your way to a perfectly manicured lawn. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Huge store-wide savings, plus the unveiling of thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, all specially priced. Save up to 35% store-wide and get zero interest financing. Special pricing on natural and lab-grown diamonds, April 21st through the 23rd. Only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. See store for details.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hello there. My name is Seychelle, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the punch of flavors that's unlike any other. You get the crispy tenderness of the chicken and that hint of sourness from the pickles. Ta-da!
Hey, I'm Juan, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is you're going to get chicken that's crispy, golden, and juicy. This is the gold standard of chicken sandwiches.
Order the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're live out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern for the last time of the season. Predators in action tonight. Final game of the season, taking on the Colorado Avalanche after a very fun win last night over the Minnesota Wild 4-3. Breaking this down, Adam Schefter went on NFL Live yesterday and said, based off of what he has heard, he's not totally convinced that, one, the Houston Texans will stay at 2, or 2, if they do stay at 2, that they're taking a quarterback. Now, I want to know, is this really what Houston is considering? Like, I cannot for a second buy that that's something that the Houston Texans would actually do. So if this is a smokescreen, if this is just a lie that Houston's putting out there to, get everybody off base, which that's what they do. I mean, general managers, coaches, that's what they do during draft season. It's all about lying and rumors, and it's a soap opera for sure. What are they getting at? Like, what's the point here?
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like it's almost like having a number one pick, and you're still and you're floating out there. Oh, we may not take a quarterback. Well, why did you move up if indeed, say like Carolina?
Right.
Why would you move up if now you're putting out, we may not take a quarterback? Well, didn't you move up to the number one spot to take a quarterback? Isn't that what everybody assumed? Isn't that what you led everybody to believe, that you were taking a quarterback at number one? And it's the same thing with Houston at number two. Why, if indeed these things actually came out of that building, why?
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. Why? Because it's not like who are you trying to fool?
And right.
It's not like you got the fifth pick in the draft or something like that.
Where you could go either way.
Exactly. You got the second pick in the draft.
And if Houston's trying to just see if there's anybody that would pick up the phone, like if Houston puts this out there and says the second overall pick could be for sale, are they just trying to pick up the phone and see what somebody would be willing to offer for the second overall pick?
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. Like, is there a team out there that's desperate enough to give us 3 first-rounders? And they get 3 first-rounders and a couple seconds or a couple of thirds for our second overall pick. If so, we think that that's more valuable than the second overall pick. I would disagree, just given Houston's needs, but maybe that's the point.
But who would you be trying to get to move up to that third spot that would be willing to give up a second spot? Because in order to move up to that spot, one, you got to have more than just, there has to be more than just one team, I believe. If you want to maximize what you can get in return for moving, from number 2 to whatever number that is.
Right.
I don't think, as much as I love these guys, and 2 guys in particular, in Stroud and Bryce Young, giving up 3 first-rounders, I can't do that. I can't, give up 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders and this. I can't do that. Why? To me, I wouldn't, especially if I'm like the Vegas Raiders. Why would I give up all of that to move up to the second spot? If I'm Indianapolis coach, who sit, at third or fourth?
They're at 4.
Four. Mm-hmm. Why would I move up to the second spot, give up all of that equity just to move up to the second spot, where I can still get a quarterback that I like, because I may like all 3 quarterbacks, all 4 of them. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give up that much to move up 2 spots to get one of the guys that I love, unless he's the only guy that I love,
And they may have just tried to see, is anyone willing to do it? And if not, we'll stay put. But there are certain things that I just feel are very certain in the draft. Like, I'll go back to the 2020 draft. I don't know if there was an offer in the world that Cincinnati would have taken for that first overall spot, because Cincinnati wanted to take Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. With Jacksonville in the 2021 draft, I don't know if there was an offer in the world that Jacksonville would have been willing to listen to trade out of number 1 and to basically give up on Trevor Lawrence, give up on drafting Trevor Lawrence. That's kind of how I viewed Houston. Mm-hmm. Maybe I misread the situation, but to me, with Houston, with a new head coach, and they're trying to get younger, and they have an opportunity to draft what looks like is going to be one of the 2, whether it's Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, blossom into a legitimate starting quarterback in the league that looks and projects to have a long career as a quarterback in this league. Is there really an offer out there that's attractive enough for you? Unless there's something that I'm missing.
I mean, there is an offer because listen, everything is for sale. Any and everything is for sale. It's just willing. It's
what's the price?
What's the price? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I know what I paid for my house. If you come in and want to give me double that or triple that, I'm like, hell yeah, take this house. Matter of fact, you can keep the furniture too. Just give me the check.
I'll leave
Get
tonight.
me my clothes and everything else. I'll leave tonight and go.
But you can find another house.
Exactly. Can you find another quarterback? Exactly. And that's the whole thing. If you're moving out of that second spot, then it has to be a, oh my God, trade, where people are looking and saying, I don't believe they gave up that much to get to the second spot. Sort of like what I think it was Minnesota did to get Herschel Walker. Was it Minnesota getting Herschel Walker from the Cowboys, or the Cowboys getting Herschel Walker from Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota getting Herschel Walker.
Minnesota got Herschel Walker from the Cowboys.
And they gave
that
up
was the Jimmy
a
Johnson
boatload.
trade.
Exactly. They gave up a boatload. People were like, what do you mean you're giving up all this for this running back? And it turned out to come and bite. Minnesota, they didn't get what they thought they were getting out of Herschel Walker.
And the Dallas Cowboys pulled off maybe the greatest trade in the history of the league.
And they took those transactions, and they built a championship team with that one guy.
Right.
It has to be a trade that's similar to that you're basically giving up the farm to move up to the second spot. But I don't think no GM or owner in the NFL would be willing to do that with these guys. As great as I think they are, they're not worth giving up all that to move up to the second spot. Giving up all that equity just to move up to the second spot.
And if the Texans do decide to, let's just, under these circumstances, according to Adam Schefter, not completely sold on the Texans taking a quarterback at 2. Let's say they stay at 2 and don't take a quarterback and they take maybe like a Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's an avenue there where Houston could trade back and take Will Anderson.
No, because I think eventually if they can't move, they would have to move too far back, I believe, because even at 7, I think somebody would take Will Anderson before the 7th pick, which would be the Vegas Raiders.
And I think Will Anderson would be gone by then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you move with the Vegas Raiders, Will Anderson's going to be gone by then.
And I would say the only logical scenario would be if Houston and Indianapolis flip-flop, and then Arizona trades out of that number 3 overall pick to a quarterback-needy team. So it would be Carolina taking 1 with a quarterback, Indianapolis taking 2 with a quarterback, mystery team at 3 taking a quarterback, and then Houston would be at 4 and could take Will Anderson. But Houston's not doing business with Indianapolis.
No, but I tell you this. If Houston decides that on draft day that they're not taking a quarterback and they take Will Anderson, the frenzy will begin.
Oh, it is going to be.
Oh,
the
my
floodgates are
exactly.
open. You know who's going to love that more than anyone?
Who's that?
Monty Austinfort.
Exactly.
Because he's going to say, oh, you're going to trade 2 first-round picks? Okay, on hold, please. Oh, you're going to trade 3 first-round picks? Okay, wonderful. On hold, please. Call back the other team and say, okay, they just offered me 3 first-round picks. How much are you going to get me? The Arizona Cardinals would cash in.
Exactly.
If there is a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud that falls out of the top 2, Arizona is going to be set for years with draft picks. But I do think that would be the best possible scenario for the Titans. If Houston trades out of 2, that would give the Tennessee Titans an option to trade up to 2. But again, I don't think that Houston's going to do business with the Titans. So then what good does it do them?
Exactly.
Because then that team that trades into 2 will take a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud, and the highest that the Titans could trade up to is 3, leaving an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis. It's just, I
love it,
season.
though. Please do it. Please do it.
Give me madness. Give me madness. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get into some of your thoughts on that. Do you buy that Houston is either not sold on taking a quarterback at number 2 or is willing to listen to offers on the 2nd overall pick? We'll get your thoughts on that. Plus, another rumor that's floating around the Tennessee Titans draft buzz. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. Thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robby and Rex Road, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House.
Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd.
Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more.
Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
Every weeknight at 10, join 1029 The Buzz as we throw it back with a Y2K at 10, highlighting some long forgotten about 2000 tunes. Some of these I got off LimeWire. The Y2K at 10, weeknights on 1029 The Buzz.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, it's Withrow. Regal Realty Group and Monarch Title have made it even easier for you to buy or sell your house. Their updated website is very helpful for buyers and sellers with a list of communities and featured listings and answers to questions you may have when selling. Take a look around at regalrg.com. You'll find your new home with their super easy search bar. Regal Realty helps from contract to closing and everything in between, like inspections, appraisals, and paperwork. Let them do the heavy lifting and make it easy for you. Everything you need is at regalrg.com.
April was a busy hiring month for Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station. We're saluting 3 teammates for 8 years of service. Cliff McCardle, our promotions director, and Jared Stillman and Ian Safar on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Janet Gers in our business office passes the 6-year mark. And Junnie Riddle in promotions and Lance Mackey in sales are celebrating 2 years with us. These folks are making a difference every day. Come join our amazing team. Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Saturday, it's playoff time in the NBA. As the New York Knicks take on Cleveland.
Mitchell puts it up and puts it in.
Coverage begins at 4:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Join us on location as we broadcast live from Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings, located at 3300 Gallatin Pike in Nashville on Friday, April 28th. So I want to get your thoughts on Adam Schefter's report, or T, if you will, that the Houston Texans are exploring potentially not taking a quarterback with the number 2 pick. But I do want to get to this little other tidbit that was put out there on ESPN.com. So this was put out there by Matt Miller, who is one of ESPN's draft gurus. Honestly, I've never heard of him before today, but he does a whole lot of draft work. NFL draft analyst, has his insiders as far as the draft goes. And this was an article about all of the rumors, the latest buzz coming out from each NFL general manager, NFL franchise. This is from Matt Miller. It says, this is what I'm hearing about the Titans draft. People I've spoken with aren't ruling out the Titans trading into the top 5 for a quarterback, but I would consider it a surprise. I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I do as well. They know there's a need for quarterback on this team because of the situation they're in contractually with Ryan Tannehill. His contract is expiring. He's an older quarterback, not old, but an older quarterback. And I'm sure they're looking eventually to go in another direction. They're trying to find a way to get their quarterback to usher them into the next, decade and a half, especially with opening up this new stadium. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did indeed move up inside that number 5 pick. You guys know, and girls know how I feel. Listen, do whatever you need to do, short of selling the farm to get your quarterback, because we all know that, either you winning and losing a lot of times dictate whether you have that quarterback or not, meaning winning a championship. A lot of times dictates who has the better quarterback and who has the franchise quarterback.
Right, like it's definitely not off the table in the slightest for
No.
me. I would say that's probably one of the top 3, top 5 most likely scenarios for the Titans in this draft. So maybe, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but it would definitely be kind of I would be awestruck for sure about, okay, what's going on here? Like, this is a bold move. So that's absolutely on the table. Says an AFC executive said, and this is again Matt Miller, NFL draft analyst for ESPN.com, says everyone outside Tennessee thinks they'll trade up, but no one in the organization is saying it directly yet, which I don't think should come as a surprise to anybody.
They're not going to allow anything to – they're going to try their best to not allow anything to get outside that building.
Right.
So you heard Rand Carthon when he first got hired. Listen, we don't negotiate in the media, which means they like to keep everything close to the hip, and you will know when it happens. Just like we found out about Jeffrey Simmons' deal when it happened, even though they had been talking about it for a while, and we would talk to Jeffrey's agent pretty soon here. So I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. I don't think it will happen until they see who's drafted number 1. I think they will have sort of a parameter of what they need to move up as far as what they need to give up. But I don't think they make the deal, if they are going to make it, until they see who's drafted number 1. Because, say Carolina drafts Richardson number 1. Now, you're probably more inclined to move up because you have C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young.
Right.
Still in the draft. So they are worth moving up to get.
Totally.
Exactly.
So, yeah, right. The Titans might not even know if they want to trade up yet. It could be a draft day thing. They could still be evaluating those quarterbacks. I mean, they just met with Will Levis. I have a feeling that in those meetings they wanted to see what kind of player he was, what kind of teammate he was, what kind of person he is, just to get a good vibe. So they might not even know if they really truly want to trade up yet. So that doesn't surprise me. But this is kind of the shocking thing. It says Tennessee is considering several positions in round 1, and the most common scenario shared among NFL sources is Tennessee is staying at number 11 and aiming for do you want to guess what position?
A receiver.
A pass rusher. But after signing edge rusher Arden Key and left tackle Andre Dillard in free agency, the team's biggest needs have been checked off, which could open the door for a trade up to secure a passer. Perhaps Anthony Richardson could be in the Titans' plans. Ryan Tannehill's turning 35 and had a disappointing 2022 season. I was surprised when I saw that, because if the Titans do ultimately decide to stay at 11 and they take an edge rusher, whatever edge rusher that might be, if that's your best player available, great. Then you got the best player at number 11. But to say that now, to say that they're aiming for a pass rusher,
that is
not what I expected.
Yeah, it's not what I expected. And if they did make that move to draft a pass rusher, it would be shocking, considering they have greater needs elsewhere. You went out and got young guys that you felt only needed an opportunity to start, to be more productive than what they had been, whether it's Al Shair or Arden Key. These are 2 guys that you pinpointed in free agency, and your thought was, okay, these guys have played well, but we project them as starters, which means their numbers are going to increase in our defense. They have more responsibilities within our defense, which will increase their productivity. So, to me, if you draft the edge rusher, it's almost like you're defeating the purpose, because then you go out and get guys that can rush the passer, and you got Harold Landry coming back. Now, this may be a sort of a security for Harold Landry, because we haven't talked about this. Him coming off an ACL, how will he be as a player? It's going to take him another year to be the player that he was prior to the injury. I am telling y'all this. If he goes out and gets 15, 16 sacks, I would be really surprised. I would be.
Pleasantly.
Exactly. But I think he will come in. They're going to have him on sort of a pitch count, in a sense, at least to start off. But I think he's going to be a good player, but he's not going to recapture that play that he had prior to the injury until probably the season after this one. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player this year because I think he will. But they may be thinking, hey, listen, we need some insurance just in case Harold Landry is still dealing with, some after effects of this injury. Because we've seen it with ACLs across the board.
It wouldn't – if the Titans take an edge rusher at 11, then you – and if that's the best player available, fine. Then you have some insurance for Harold Landry. Then you continue to bolster up what you want part of your team's strengths to be. And that's being tough at the line of scrimmage defensively. I think this is a smokescreen.
Yeah, it could be.
It has smokescreen written all over it for me. Because like I said, if draft day comes and the best player available falls to you and that's an edge rusher, that's who you take. But to seek out an edge rusher when those are positions that aren't necessarily of dire need sounds a little bit strange to me. It sounds to me like maybe the Titans are putting that out there to almost scare a team that's picking above them into taking the best edge rusher available, whether that's a Will Anderson or a Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech or a Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Maybe there's a team that thinks, okay, well, we don't want Tennessee to get this guy, so we're going to take him because Tennessee has said that they want an edge rusher. And then Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon are out there saying, we weren't going to take him anyway, so we'll take the next best player that gets pushed down to us at 11. So to me, I'm not completely buying that that's a position that they are honing in on. I do buy that that's on the table. I think any position is on the table, quarterback included. But I don't buy that this is a position that they absolutely positively are seeking out.
Me either, but, hey, funnier things have happened.
Funny things happen.
When teams are on a clock and, maybe the guy or the quarterback that they like is gone. So what do you do then? Do you get best player available on your board, or do you get player of need on your board? Which way do you go? Or both. Yeah, he could be the best player on the board and a player of need. I just don't think at 11, if they stay put at 11, that an edge rusher may be the best player on the board, but he's not a player of need for you because you went out and you got guys that can rush the passer. You re-signed Jeffrey Simmons, so he and Danico Autry makes everybody else's job a little bit easier. You got Harold Landry coming back, albeit he might not be the Harold Landry before the injury this year, but he's coming back. So you may look at that and say, listen, we got our front led by Jeffrey Simmons, so we're good, It would shock me if they drafted an edge rusher. It really would. But again, it could just be a smokescreen, and they're trying to find a way to get you to draft a defensive guy. Maybe that quarterback slips a little bit more, and we're able to get him.
And crazy things happen on draft
Absolutely.
night. That we know for certain. 615-737-1025. We're right to your phones coming up next. Anything is on the table. The Texans possibly not taking a quarterback at 2. What you think the Titans will do or should do at 11, or maybe not 11. We'll get into our thoughts coming up next. It's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring store-wide sale is coming. April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA-certified diamonds are marked down. Lab-grown diamonds, too. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. You can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Interest rates are up, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Don't sweat it out another summer. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off. Or get 18 months of no payments so your first payment's not due till fall of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Book your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com. And happy spring.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
Honey, what's an 8-letter word for difficult to explain?
When we planned on retiring, we never planned on Medicare being so confusing.
What's a 6-letter word for special skills or knowledge?
Fortunately, Farm Bureau Health Plans is an expert on all things Medicare. With 75 years of helping Tennesseans, they helped us understand our Medicare options.
Why are these things so complicated?
Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle for Michelle and Junnie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junnie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I think there's a lot of conflicting signals and information out there about what Houston is going to do at 2. And I think a lot of people have assumed it's just going to be a quarterback. And in the end, I'm just not convinced just yet that that's going to be the case. Now, I do think that we have Bryce Young slated to be the favorite, number 1, Carolina. Then Houston's on the clock, and what does Houston do? And it becomes interesting if Houston decides to auction off that pick to somebody who wants to come up and trade for a quarterback at number 2, or whether Houston wants to go with a quarterback of its own, or whether Houston wants to go with one of the top defensive players. All I'm saying is I don't think it's a lock that Houston is going quarterback at 2. That's all I'm saying.
Not a lock that Houston is going quarterback at 2 per Adam Schefter. I don't buy it. I cannot buy that Houston's not taking a quarterback in this year's draft. But let's get your thoughts on it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Josh from Dixon texts in and says, do you think the Texans want to trade down and get more picks and take Hooker later? Maybe. I mean, that could be in the cards.
Yeah.
Pick up more picks, continue to build your team, get more cracks at getting potential franchise players for you. But I just look at it and say, if you are in a position, and you don't have to give anything up for it, and you're in a position to draft a quarterback with the caliber of Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, you take it.
Yeah, you do, because you still have the opportunity at 12 to get, say, a receiver if you want a receiver, or get another highly touted defensive player, whether it's Miles Murphy, out of Clemson, or, what was
Lucas Van Ness?
Yeah, Lucas Van Ness, or Tyree Wilson, guys like that are ranked really high in this year's draft. If you go out and get your quarterback with the second pick, but you say, well, we still need some players on defense, well, at the 12th pick, you can do that as well. Mm-hmm. You can get a defensive player, or you can get a receiver that you're going to need, because right now, the only guy that you have, with any experience is the guy that you got here, Robert Woods. Mm-hmm. That's the only guy that you have with true experience on your roster, because you got rid of Brandon Cooks. He's now with someone else. So the only veteran guy you have with some skins on the wall is Robert Woods. So
I think we've seen it's not a guy that you can really rely on.
He's a veteran guy that can come in and be a leader in the receiving room. You're going to get some production, but not the production that you need. So you're going to have to go out and get a number one guy. He can be your number two, but you need a flat-out number one. So you can take the quarterback at 2 and still get another offensive player or a guy to rush the passer at 12.
Another texter texts in and says something that I've talked about in the past, but not recently, the possibility of Trey Lance landing the Titans in a draft day deal.
I don't know if that's going to happen because to me, who knows him better than anybody? Rand Carthon. And if that deal was going to happen, not to say that it's not, but if that deal was going to happen, I think we would have heard more about it, considering where Rand came from. And he knows he helped scout Trey Lance. So if that was in the cards for the Tennessee Titans, like if that was one of our top priorities, we would have heard about this a long time ago.
And I'm not counting out the possibility that Trey Lance could maybe potentially end up in Tennessee someday. But if I'm San Francisco, I'm not quite ready to move off of Trey Lance just yet. It could get to the point because, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, they're both recovering from injury. They're both coming back. I think what San Francisco wants to do is just, okay, let's play Sam Darnold as long as we possibly need to. And then when both of them or either of them are ready to come back, then they battle it out for that starting job. And if Brock Purdy wins that job, I don't know how San Francisco can hold on to both of them, both Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Not financially.
Yeah.
Financially, you can hold on to 2 quarterbacks on your rookie deal, but what's the point of sitting on 2 really solid quarterbacks, a former first-rounder and a player like Brock Purdy, not a first-rounder by any means, but a good player? What's the point of holding on to both of them? So I think if I'm San Francisco, I'm waiting on it. I'm not giving up my first-round pick this easily.
Oh, no. Not at all. Because you got to understand Brock Purdy is coming back, from a elbow injury.
Yeah.
It's not like an ACL. It's not like a foot injury. It's a elbow injury. That's like a pitcher coming back from Tommy John surgery. It's like
pretty important for what he has to
we
do.
got to make sure that, he comes back and he comes back ready to go. We can't just put all of our eggs in that one basket because this is just not no ordinary injury. This injury is significant that if it's not done right and the rehab is not done right, we could be set back even longer if indeed we choose to go with him as our primary quarterback.
Right. So that's why I think the 49ers are going to wait on Trey Lance. They're going to wait on Brock Purdy. They're going to let them battle it out. The best player wins the starting job, and I would say the one who didn't win the starting job probably does get dealt. Yeah. And if the Titans don't find their quarterback of the future, maybe Trey Lance is that guy because Rand Carthon knows what he's getting from him. But we've heard that the going rate, I believe it was Charles Robinson, who said the going rate for Trey Lance probably would be a 3rd-round pick, which sounds crazy since San Francisco gave up 3 first-round picks to go get him. But also, why would anyone pay anything more for Trey Lance? We don't have much of a sample size from him. So I don't, as fun as I think that would be, and it would be great radio, and as much sense as it would make bringing Trey Lance in with Rand Carthon, with his former, with the 49ers organization, and Rand Carthon knows him so well, and I would probably assume that Rand Carthon was in the group of, yes, we're going to go all in on Trey Lance, because I don't think that's a move that you can make without being all in on Trey Lance. It's not going to happen this season.
No, not this season.
Not this year. One texter texts in, says, okay, say the Titans are staying at 11 on draft night. The Panthers take Bryce Young. The Texans take Will Anderson at 2. Do you think the Titans pick up the phone and try to get that 3rd pick? And do you think that they would be getting Stroud or Richardson?
That's when the frenzy starts.
Arizona's phones are going to be ringing off the hook if that happens.
Yeah, and I think they, you have to inquire about moving up to that 3rd pick because you still have, one of the 2 quarterbacks still left, C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. So as a GM, as a head coach, you have to make the call to see what it would take to move up to that 3rd spot. Not to say that they would, because they may be in a bidding war, and the price may just be too steep for them or too rich for them. But you got to call and say, hey, listen, what is it going to take to move up to this third spot? You have to. But knowing that you're not the only person calling.
And that's the thing, is if you wait until draft day, because you would say, okay, well, wait, see if a quarterback falls to 3, and if they do, go get him. That sounds really obvious and easy in theory, but everybody else in the league is thinking that as well. You're not the only team that needs a quarterback in this year's draft or is looking at potentially trading up to get a quarterback in this year's draft. So if you do that, if you wait until draft day, understand the price might increase significantly. You're going to have to give up more on draft night if CJ Stroud falls than you would if you maybe want to make that move today. And Arizona understands that as well. That might be why, or that might explain why Arizona, if they decided to wait until draft night to trade that 3rd overall pick, that they're just waiting for the price to go up and up and up. But I think about it like this, from Houston's perspective. If CJ Stroud falls to 3, you know Arizona's phone is going to be ringing off the hook.
Yes.
Everyone is going to be interested to get them a piece of CJ Stroud. How many people are picking up the phones to get Will Anderson?
I don't know. It's hard to sort of, evaluate who would be or speculate who would be willing to move up. Now, we know Stroud and Young, there would be people willing to move up.
For sure.
But how many people would be willing to move up to that 3rd spot to get a Will Anderson? Is he a top 3 talent? If you think he's a top 3 talent, you may be the only person in that pool that's splashing around. So the price may not be steep. But if there's 1 or 2 other teams in that pool swimming around with you, then the price may go up.
So that's why I think, because we know for certain there's going to be people willing to pick up the phone about Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, rather. Panthers have already picked up the phone for either a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. So we know that for certain. We don't know for certain if anybody is just salivating at the mouth waiting for a Will Anderson. That's why I don't think Houston's going to do that. Because why would you take a player at that spot, at a very premier spot in the 1st round, that isn't as in high demand as a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young? You don't get anything in return for it.
Exactly.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons' agent, will join us coming up next. We'll get all of his inside info on how that deal went down. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're out here at Pete and Terry's at Bridgestone Arena. Predators in action tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. It's 102.5-106.3 the game.
All the big plays. All the big stories.
If you're not ready to play in this league, you will lose. I don't care who you're playing.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Because I love the sport.
We played the way we needed to.
Why would he make that move?
360, he slams it home. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Al Gill here from my friends at Dunkin'. Warm up and feel the love with Dunkin'. Treat yourself and a loved one to a brown butter toffee hot or iced latte, which is superb paired with the bacon avocado tomato sandwich. Be sure to try the all-new stuffed biscuit bites. It's a warm biscuit dough wrapped around a mixture of bacon, scrambled egg, and cheddar cheese. Visit us at our newly remodeled Dunkin' on Briley Parkway in Nashville or the new Dunkin' in Mount Juliet and our other locations throughout Middle Tennessee. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
The NBA playoffs are here, folks, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel Sportsbook. Joe Rex here to let you know. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/Joe102. Right now, place $5 bet. You get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. A lot going on with the playoffs. Of course, it's going to be an exciting playoffs. Again, I'm big on the Dubs. I think Andrew Wiggins coming back. It's going to be really interesting for the Golden State Warriors. But so many different ways you can go. Just do it on FanDuel. Safe and secure. You get paid instantly. You got a spot for the bets you like and great promotions every day. Easy to use. Big thing with me. No better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel's an official sports betting partner of the NBA, and you must be 21 or older and present. Tennessee. Bonus issued is no withdrawable bonus set, so it expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
Your Game Center update.
This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Nick Keyser. The season finale is tonight for the Nashville Predators as they are set to take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. Last night, they took down the Minnesota Wild in overtime thanks to a crazy goal from Juuso Parssinen.
Given back on the right wing side again. Now looking in front, Parssinen. He scores! Juuso Parssinen went behind the back and between the legs.
What a play that was. Ryan McDonough made a beautiful play getting it to Parssinen.
And the Nashville Sounds are 3-0 this week to start their series against the Norfolk Tide. The Sounds won 5-2 with Keston Hiura hitting his 4th homer of the season while knocking in 2 of his teammates. They'll be back in action tonight at 6:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. And some big changes have been made in Pittsburgh as the Penguins announced that President of Hockey Ops Brian Burke, General Manager Ron Hextall, and Assistant GM Chris Pryor have been relieved of their duties as announced by the Fenway Sports Group. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 106.3.
A gutty performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
D-Mase, 1025, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena, and the namesake himself is out here, Pete Weber, everybody, on the last day of school. Willy Donick also joins the party. Willy, how we doing?
Doing all right. It's a little bit bittersweet, the last day of school, because, you know it's the last day of school.
Right.
We're getting used to this around here, right? You make the playoffs every year. This is 8 straight years that's been snapped. You never know when your last game's going to be going into the game, right? It just ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like even going to that, if you're behind and you're facing elimination, it may not be the last day of school. Just win, you stay alive.
Hey.
But today we know it's the last day of school.
It is the last day of school.
This is it. This is it. So we want to have one last hurrah here against the defending champions, and it's an interesting game. Only because Colorado is in a difficult dilemma. They played last night. They have to fly from Denver here. I mean, I'm sure they're here, but they had to fly through the night.
Mm-hmm.
And they have something to play for because if they win the division. They get more home ice advantage. They would be the 2 overall seed in the West as opposed to the number 2 seed in the Central. Mm-hmm. So they would play Minnesota in the first round if they lose tonight. If they win, they would get the Seattle Kraken, which is a little bit different, I would think.
Right.
So how bad do you try to go get this game? They're already pretty banged up. They don't have Cale Makar. They don't have Gabe Landeskog. They won't have Gabe Landeskog. So it's an interesting dilemma for a coach. Like, how bad would you try to go get this game?
Right.
Or would you say, hey, if we win, great, but I'm not going to risk X. So we'll see.
It'll be interesting. Puck drop at 7 o'clock tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And joining us now is Jeffrey Simmons' agent, Paul Duracell. Paul, I know it's been a whirlwind of a week for you, hopefully in the best way possible, but we really appreciate you joining us. First question I have for you is, going into this deal, going into all the negotiations, what were Jeffrey Simmons' priorities in this contract?
Well, first of all, good afternoon. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.
No doubt. I would say for Jeff, man, going into it, his number one priority was he wanted to just be paid in line with his value. And he wanted to know that the organization really respected him and valued his contributions and, him playing hurt and doing everything right. So he didn't have just a set number or beating anybody. I think his number one priority was getting a contract that was guaranteed, that had high guaranteed money, flexibility on the length of the contract, and just something that would be respectable at his position. We focus on us in the entirety of the deal, with not really trying to worry about beating anybody else. Just what was important to us.
Now, Paul, looking at Jeffrey's contract, and we've talked about it for the last couple of days, and congratulations to you for negotiating that contract, and congratulations to Jeff because he earned every bit and possibly even more. But we were discussing the contract, and we were all trying to figure out, well, what will it be? What will it entail? How much? And we were thinking we're not so much worried about the AAV than we are the guaranteed money. Is that what you and Jeffrey were more concerned with outside of being in Nashville for his whole career, more so the guarantee than the AAV?
Absolutely. Jeffrey and I have a very close relationship. I care about him. So I feel like sometimes AAV is more of an agent number, that you use as a recruitment tool. Sometimes you hear guys, I got 42 guaranteed, then it's a backloaded contract, dummy years, void years, and the player never sees that. So it was big for us to have real tangible money. And the AAV is a great number. I still feel like we have a good number, but it was always about the guarantee, 3-year cash flow, signing bonus, those metrics. I wanted real money. It wasn't about me. It was all about Jeff.
Now, was there any worry that a deal might not get done this year, considering what happened, because the Titans were sort of in the same situation with A.J. Brown the year prior, and we all thought, hey, A.J.'s going to be back, and I know they wanted him back, but then at the 12th hour, they end up trading him away, and he ends up getting a contract with Philadelphia. Now, we didn't think that Jeffrey was going to go anywhere, but there were a lot of fans just around here like, man, they're not going to sign Jeff back because the Titans don't pay anyone, which is not true. They do pay, and they do prioritize positions, and I think Jeffrey was one of their, if not their main priority this offseason.
I don't think there was any worry. We went into it knowing that A.J. Brown was in an entirely different situation with an entirely different general manager. And, Rand Carthon came in, man. If he was hired on a Tuesday, I think I see a 6, 7, 8 number or whatever. His number starts with, he called me by Wednesday. The dialogue started very early, more so just from congratulating each other. I was proud of him just as a black man. That was the first part of the conversation. And obviously, we got into the nuances, and, he said he wanted to pay Jeff. And, he had sent an offer by the Pro Bowl. We got our first offer from the Titans at the Pro Bowl, I believe on the Friday or the Saturday of the Pro Bowl. So we knew that, and he came in at a number that was, I would say, respectable. Sometimes these organizations will send you a terrible number. It wasn't disrespectful. When we got that offer, we knew there was work to do, but we knew that getting to the number that we wanted was tangible. And Rand was true to his word.
Talking to Paul Duracell. He is the agent for Jeffrey Simmons. And Paul, excuse us, we're downtown here. We got sirens and stuff going up and down the Mumbrian here right by the arena. But I'm curious, your relationship, you mentioned you've known Jeffrey for a long time. We have really enjoyed his personality, the way he wants to win, the way he's been a professional since he's been here at Nashville. When did you first meet Jeffrey?
It's crazy. I actually first met Jeffrey at the Pro Bowl when he was, after his rookie year, he was with Jarrell Casey. And I just kept seeing him over and over. I was playing ping pong, just beating everybody, man. And I was beating him. And I saw he had a wristband on. It was Omega Psi Phi. And I'm a part of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So we talked a little bit about that, but it was never on, I want to represent you one day. And obviously I did my research, looked up. I saw he didn't have an agent at the time. He went that route of no agent. And, doing further research, I saw that his uncle was Jason Hatchett. He played in the NFL. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was representing DJ Chark. But a couple years later, I saw Hatch at a crab boil, and we just started talking and just built a genuine, organic relationship. He introduced me to Jeff and also Tyree Phillips, and we just fostered a friendship. It was never a promise that I would ever be his agent. I was just around, and building that trust, building that rapport. And I actually had to interview like anybody else did for the position, and I would like to think I knocked it out the park, and that's why I'm here talking to y'all today.
It's interesting to hear you talk about your sort of vision of how you approach being an agent. It's obvious that the relationship is important. We've all seen Jerry Maguire and movies like that, but there's different relationships, right, between agents and players. So I'm curious, where did you develop sort of your belief on what an agent should be to a player?
I've always looked at it, man. Whether a person was a football player, a fellow law student, a younger fraternity brother, I've always treated people how I would want to be treated if I were in that position. And I'm big on personal relationships because I believe at the end of the day, when it gets dark and when it gets hard, those personal relationships are going to give you sustenance through a difficult time. Contract negotiations are hard. So I feel like you can't really know the player until you know the person, till you know their temperament, till you know their priorities, till you know their values. So I try to be a big brother as an agent, be a mentor, be a therapist, be a pastor, sending scripture in the morning. An agent's going to wear many hats, and I just try my best to foster those really, really personal relationships, not only with the player, but with their family, with everybody, because that's what it's about for me. I don't care if I have 20 clients. If I have 10 quality guys, that's better than 50 guys I got to worry about losing anytime things get hard.
So as the big brother, did you take it easy on him at the ping pong table, or did you say, look, I'm the big brother, I got to teach you how to get better here? Did you school him?
I have not lost a ping pong game yet. Tyree's been practicing a little bit, but I don't think I'll lose. I done beat him right-handed, left-handed. It don't matter.
We're talking with Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons' agent. They just negotiated a $94 million 4-year extension for Jeffrey Simmons. Now, I listened to Jeff on press conference, and it tugs at everybody's heartstrings because I think a lot of players can relate to Jeffrey's story and his upbringing and his mom and his family being there for him no matter what. I think a lot of players can attest to that. But I also listened to the things that Jeffrey said he was doing down in Mississippi, all of the work outside of football with the community stuff. Was that big for you in getting a client that not only does he do what he needs to do on the football field, but also that he gives back to the community that he grew up in and the community that he's playing in?
That is absolutely important. Jeff's heart, man, how much he loves people and looks out for people, and he's always so selfless. And that resonates, man. That resonates, and it also translates to the football field. He loves his teammates. Y'all saw him crying after the Jag game. When he loves you and he's with you, he grew up in Knoxville County under unfortunate circumstances. We kind of talked about sharing a bed with his brother, living with his family, all that. So, when he started Give Him a Reason, he started that because he wanted to use his position to help others. They had a big Christmas giveaway, and they're doing all these big things, man. And it couldn't happen to a better human being, man. None of this that is happening. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to give back. He's got plans for tennis camps, business, the things that they're about to do with this foundation, man. It is going to be truly sensational. And he means it, too. And this is something that's really important to him.
Jeffrey Simmons' agent, Paul Duracell, is with us. Paul, what was your experience like working with Rand Carthon, negotiating with Rand Carthon, your impression of him as a person and as a GM?
I love Rand. There's a quote about Rand that says, he's everybody's best friend. And immediately in meeting Rand and interacting, you could see why he was the guy at San Francisco. Anytime things got tough, they sent him to go talk to Debo. He has this calming presence. He's firm. He's fair. He's a consummate professional. You know, he and I didn't always get along about certain things, but I think we left the process as friends. He knows his stuff. He knows football. And the crazy thing about it, man, is a lot of people don't know this, but we really moved the deal along by going to church, Mount Zion, Sunday morning, which is right by the facility. So right after church, Rand and I got to, he pulled out the deal on the screen, on the big screen. And I think that's when we made significant movement in the deal. And I look forward to working with him again. Because I'm going to see him again in a couple of years. I hope he knows that all of a 4-year extension was very intentional. We'll see Rand again when it's time to get to that new stadium.
And 30 or will be 30 at the end of this deal, but it gives him the flexibility, which, you've talked about the flexibility of going back to the table because you know what type of player Jeffrey Simmons is and you know what he will ultimately become. So going back to the table is nothing to you. It's like, listen, we're going to sign this short-term deal. It's great for both parties, but knowing that Jeff is going to be back at the table in another 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely. And if you look at historically what the Titans have done, as an agent, you got to do your homework. If you look historically at what the Titans have done, they've done 5-year extensions. Landry, Taylor Lewan is the more appropriate comparison. He had a 5 for $80, but he did a 5-year extension with the 5th-year option. So we really, really wanted to get to a 4-year. Me personally, I wanted 3 years, but Rand told me, hell nah. Hey, look, I'm thinking I'm coming in. I'm like, maybe I go 3 years, $68 million fully guaranteed, and with a basketball deal. Rand was like, hell nah. So, the first couple of offers were 5-year extensions. I can, y'all my cousins now, so I can tell y'all that. But I was adamant. And you look at Javon Hargrave just got paid 4 years, $84 million at 30. Chris Jones is 29. The defensive tackle is a position where being 30 is not necessarily an impediment to getting a lucrative last contract, but we wanted to be back at 29 or 30. That was the thought of ours. Because we had higher average annual values in the 5-year range, but we sacrificed some of that to get to where we ended up in. Absolutely.
Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons representation. Appreciate you for joining us. Appreciate you for taking the time, and a go Jags to you and everybody else down there in the booth.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure anytime, and I enjoyed my talk with you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons' agent. We'll react to that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance. D-Mase. It's Ask D-Mase.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mase.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Krebs Kubota wants to help you get your job done right with the parts you need and a service department that can handle maintenance and repairs from the largest excavator to the smallest 2-cycle engine. For your farm, home, or commercial needs, Krebs Kubota will keep your Kubota running like a Kubota. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer, with convenient locations in Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Also online at KrebsKubota.com.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willy Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity, equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon, you wish would never end. The homemade taste of Bluebell, and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Have you noticed that most ice creams now come in smaller cartons? Not Bluebell. We're still making a full half-gallon and a full pint of tasty goodness. Bluebell wouldn't have it any other way.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Walgreens and Tony's Foodland in Jolton.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa.
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's nothing in you. It's like, listen, we're going to sign this short-term deal. It's great for both parties, but knowing that Jeff is going to be back at the table in another 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely. And if you look at historically what the Titans have done, as an agent, you got to do your homework. If you look historically at what the Titans have done, they've done 5-year extensions. Taylor Lewan is the more appropriate comparison. He had 5 for $80, but he did a 5-year extension with the 5th-year option. So we really, really wanted to get to a 4-year. Me personally, I wanted 3 years, but Rand told me, hell nah. Hey, look, I'm thinking I'm coming in. I'm like, maybe I go 3 years, $68 million fully guaranteed, and with a basketball deal. Rand was like, hell nah. So, the first couple of offers were 5-year extensions. I can, y'all my cousins now, so I can tell y'all that. But I was adamant. And you look at Javon Hargrave, just got paid 4 years, $84 million at 30. Chris Jones is 29. The defensive tackle is a position where being 30 is not necessarily an impediment to getting a lucrative last contract, but we wanted to be back at 29 or 30. That was the thought of ours. Because we had higher average annual value in the 5-year range, but we sacrificed some of that to get to where we ended up in. Absolutely.
I wanted 3 years. Rand Carthon said, hell no. Probably a good move from Rand Carthon. That was Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons' agent, who was just on with us. And there was one thing in particular that didn't surprise me, but it was good to hear. Mm-hmm. And that was Paul Duracell's experience with Rand Carthon. The negotiations, how they got to know each other, how everything unfolded, how it was a lot of mutual respect there. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest, because that's just, from my impression, what kind of guy Rand Carthon seems like. But if Paul Duracell didn't have a good experience with Rand Carthon, he probably could have just, media talked his way through that response. But he genuinely seemed like he really respected Rand Carthon and enjoyed the negotiation process with Rand Carthon.
He said it when talking about Rand Carthon. It's like he's everybody's best friend. Mm-hmm. There's not a space that he can't walk into and sort of blend in and make friends and talk to people and is personable with people and approachable. And that helps out a lot in negotiations because now you feel you're building a relationship aside from the relationship with the contract. We're building a relationship in lieu of the contract, and the relationship will help us broker a deal for Jeffrey Simmons, and it seemed like that's what it did. Him seeing ran at church at Mount Zion, and subsequently right after that, he takes him in and he shows him, hey, listen, this is the deal that we want to give Jeffrey Simmons, and ultimately they worked that deal out, and it's probably the number that everybody wanted, more than likely. So building relationships is key in situations like this. And it seems like not only has he built a really good relationship with his client, Jeffrey Simmons, but he's built a really good relationship with Rand Carthon and that organization.
I just really enjoyed how the relationship, not only with Rand Carthon, was built, but also how he built it with Jeffrey Simmons. It seems very authentic. I'm sure Jeffrey Simmons at one point probably said, do I really need an agent? He obviously was going down this road without an agent for a while there, and he wasn't going to just take anybody. It had to be something that appeared to be a meaningful relationship, and you could just feel it there, the way they talked about how it was built. That's just a great story. I just enjoyed hearing him talk about the process there.
Yeah, and that's what I really wanted to get an inside look into is how did the process go down? Because it was a deal that came together rather quickly. I know it felt long in the process because Titans fans were on the edge of their seat just waiting for the deal to get done. And I know they were antsy and impatient just because they wanted Jeffrey Simmons to be locked down. But it was a deal that came together pretty quickly. It was a deal that came together earlier than was really necessary, but good to just go ahead and get it done. And for Rand Carthon to be able to go into the draft knowing, okay, priority 1A on my list is already taken care of. I think another thing, too, for me was that Jeffrey Simmons, his priority was guarantees. And that also doesn't surprise me. I would say that probably a majority of athletes going into contract negotiations, that is their number one priority, is guaranteed money. And going back to that Athletic article a few months ago when John Robinson said, we want to pay you. We don't know how we're going to be able to pay you. Very weird and cryptic negotiating tactic from John Robinson. So what was his number one priority is getting paid, getting that guaranteed money, when that was kind of up in the air with John Robinson, at least as far as we were concerned from the Athletic article, now getting that guaranteed money locked down and also locked down for 4 years. It seemed like the top priority for Jeffrey Simmons was taken care of.
Yeah, and it sounded like right from the start, it was about let's do this. It's not about me, the agent. It's about Jeffrey, the client. Let's get him the most guaranteed money. And you heard it at the end there. The strategy, as you said, Derek, you said this yesterday before we ever talked to Paul, was there's another payday down the road.
Exactly,
if you have confidence and you, quote, bet on yourself just a little bit, whatever he didn't get in the AAV or whatever, he'll be – and it was funny, you heard him talk about he tried to get the 3-year deal so you get back to that window quicker. But after 4 years, you still feel like he'll still be a very, very good player, God willing, all of that stuff. If he he's going to work hard. The Titans will be glad to invest in him again, it looks like. So that's really the idea. You get the 2 paydays. Not very many players can do that, but the great ones can.
Yeah, and I think more players. It's easier. It's harder for a quarterback to do like a 3-4 year deal, especially franchise quarterbacks, because they tend to want to lock you up for a little bit longer. They tend to want to lock you up 6, 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years. You look at Patrick Mahomes' 10-year deal, a lot of money, but we know they're going to have to go back to the table to redo that deal eventually to kick some money down the road. So with the quarterback, I believe it's a little bit harder to do those short-term deals. But I think with everybody outside of a quarterback, this is what they should be looking to do. Every player across the league that's not a quarterback, and you believe in your talent has shown on the field, and it warrants you getting a big contract, you need to do a short-term contract. make sure you get a lot of money, guaranteed, short-term contract, so you're still young enough to go back to the table if indeed you believe in your ability to get better. Jeff and Paul believe that Jeffrey will get better. So going back to the table it's like, we know we're going to do that. That's coming. So we're signing. I want a 3-year deal, but Rand said no. All right, give me a 4-year deal. We can go back to the table. In 4 years, Jeffrey, 30 years old. He may be Defensive Player of the Year by that time. So that adds more dollars to the contract moving forward.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Ask D-Mase is coming up next. Anything is on the table. Get your questions in for D-Mase. Text, calls, all of the above. And the best question for D-Mase will win a nice little prize, which we will reveal coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. And hey, Preds fans, you can hang out tonight before the Preds game at the Superbook Lounge and Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway with 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Place your bets with Superbook and enjoy great food and drink specials, plus enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When you want all the...
Going in and the score. Blast the score. He wrists one, they score.
And don't forget the...
Oh, what a stop. Sliding across to make the save. The backhander, nice stop.
When all you want is... Smashville. We have you covered. Hear every Predators game. Right here. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Some people don't do well under pressure. At Northern Tool and Equipment, we do it best. Whether you're spraying down the shop or getting the winter grime off your house, a Northern Tool pressure washer says you're serious about spring cleaning. From an all-electric power horse to a Honda-powered North Star, we'll help you build your perfect cold or hot water package with all the chemicals, attachments, and everything you need for the job ahead. Northern Tool and Equipment. We're made for this. Come see us in store or shop online at northerntool.com.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatment, sex start, results vary.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Huge store-wide savings, plus the unveiling of thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, all specially priced. Save up to 35% store-wide and get zero interest financing. Special pricing on natural and lab-grown diamonds, April 21st through the 23rd. Only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
Saturday.
Launches high and deep to left center field. Back it goes and gone. Byron Buxton comes
comebacker. Walker knocks it down. Everybody's going to be safe. 2-0 New York.
It's a battle in the American League as the Minnesota Twins head to the Bronx to take on the New York Yankees. Coverage begins at 11:30 a.m. on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
D-Mase. He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mase. Get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And the best question for D-Mase will win a pair of tickets to see Godsmack at First Bank Amphitheater on May 23rd. So get those questions in for D-Mase. If you're ready.
Hey, let's go.
To the phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Doug is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, Doug?
Hey, fellas. Good to hear from you. I've got a question for D-Mase. We've all seen the customary game ball given post-game after a good win, going to the player that probably played the most significant part in a win. But my question to you, D-Mase, have you ever called a dude out and said, hey, bro, you're the reason why we lost? And part B, with Big Jeff being a significant person now that's a leader in this team, if you've ever done that, what is your advice to him on how he's going to have to do it? Because it's got to be done. Blaine did it. You've done it. Eddie's done it. Hey, congratulations, Mr. Jeff, you're it. So my question, have you ever done it, D-Mase? And how do you do it?
Thanks for the question, Doug. Appreciate it. You got to know the particular player you may have to say that to. You got to know who that player is. You got to know his personality. How does he take, constructive criticism, in a way that, okay, I hear you, I understand you, okay, now let me go do something about it. Some guys, you say something to, they automatically get defensive. No, you worry about your job, not my job. And it's not about that. It's worrying about the team and making the team better. To call someone out in front of everybody, a particular person, no, but we have had team-only meetings where, as one of the leaders, you get up there and you explain, hey, this is what needs to happen. And they know exactly who you're talking to when you say that. You don't have to necessarily point a guy out. Now, I had no problem in the receiver room, telling a guy, hey, listen, you need to play better. It's just flat out. That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. They expect more of you. I expect more of you. You need to play better because I know those guys in that room. Right. We've spent all of our time together, so I can say that to him, and he knows that it's coming from a place of love and wanting him to get better, as a player or as a person.
Very fair.
Yeah.
On to the next question for D-Mase. Daryl is on the line. What's up, Daryl?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
D-Mase, I've got a question about logistics for when they bring these top 30 players in. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the ins and outs. Will they fly them first class? Do they bring them in on the Titans private plane? Will they put them like at the one of the top hotels in Nashville? Do they take them to at the top of the Marriott and all that kind of stuff? How do they work out the logistics for these guys who are coming in? And are they doing their best to impress them, or do they put them up at Vrabel's house so he can make them scrambled eggs in the morning?
If I'm a head coach, I'm bringing them to my house so you can scramble me some eggs in the morning and cook me some pancakes. But no, I think it depends on, because, for me, being a fourth-round draft pick, they didn't wine and dine me. I think I went on 2 trips, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and that was it. And it was, they fly you in. It's, fly you in first class, but that's really, you fly in and you do all the meetings and they take you out to dinner or lunch. and then you're out of there, unless they want you to do some type of workout or whatnot. But, typically guys that they're bringing in now, say a Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, which doesn't count against their visits, I don't think, because he's in-state.
In-state doesn't count, yeah.
Or Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, guys like that are projected, all with the exception of Will Levis, that are projected potentially top 5 picks. Then, some you may bring in on a private jet, some you may bring in first class, and you wine and dine them because you want to show them what the organization about. And they want to find out what you're about as a player. But then once you get drafted then you fly in on that. If you're that first round pick, they fly you on that private jet. You get off, you meet everybody, and away we go. But they, just like you as a player, they try to put their best foot forward as an organization. They want to show you what it's like and what it could potentially be like once you get here. And as a player, you want to make sure you put your best foot forward, that you answer the questions honestly, that you make sure once they put you on that board and tell you to start dissecting things and drawing up defenses or offenses, that you're able and capable of doing that. And just, just being yourself, being personal, but being yourself. That's all they're worried about, because they're trying to find out as much as they can about you face to face, because they've done their due diligence behind closed doors, figuring out everything. But now they want to put the person that they found out this stuff about in front of them and talk to them in their setting, not necessarily his setting.
And I think of it just as much as the teams vetting the players, as much as it is the players getting a vibe for the organization too. The GM, the coach, just kind of the organization as a whole. Is that how you kind of approached it?
Yeah, because, and again, mine was different. I was a 4th round draft pick, so I wasn't, taking trips all willy-nilly to different teams. Again, I only went to 2 teams. But, my free agency was a little bit different, because I went to, these places, and, it's like, okay, I can see myself here, or nah, I don't want to be here. This is a step back from where I came from. So it's more so because you have no control when you're drafted. You have no control. They're drafting you. But in free agency, you do have control over where you're going. So that more so, what you just asked, Caroline, that's more so in free agency, where you get to fill out.
When you can pick and choose.
Exactly. You get to fill out the organization. I'm like, hey, is this where I really want to be? So.
More into your questions for D-Mase coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robby and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Happy Friday, everyone. Man, I need to tell you something about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife, Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Nashville, including me, Brentwood, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. And you can tell by my voice that I'm energized today, and that's thanks to Cool Springs MD. So there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So, man, what are you waiting for? Get Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number. Save it, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, don't sell without the intel. This message couldn't be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot, and intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com, where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
Harmon Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Harmon Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Hey, Robby, Stanley here, and the NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 back in bonus bets, win or lose. So FanDuel, I've talked to you about it for a long time. They've got great promotions every single day. The app is safe and secure, and you get paid instantly. I like the Milwaukee Bucks coming out of the East, and I like the Phoenix Suns coming out of the West. But you can take it any way you want to take it. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Just go to FanDuel.com/Rob and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. You can see full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Got a gambling problem? Make sure you call the Tennessee Red Line today at 1-800-889-9789.
He's got big takes.
It's not that freaking hard. Hand the ball to Henry.
Small takes.
You have to defend your decision.
But all takes.
They win, they lose. Just invested a lot into this game. It was the worst press conference.
He is Jared Stillman.
I guess I'm just not a very good coach, Jared.
Weekdays from 2 to 6, Stillman and Company. Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
D-Mase.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mase. The best question for D-Mase will win a pair of tickets to see Godsmack at First Bank Amphitheater on May 23rd. Let's get into it. Adam is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, Adam?
Hey, D-Mase. So when you joined the league, you had a couple of years there before we went to the Super Bowl, mainly a special teams guy, like you made your bones in special teams. Depth chart, I know Isaac Bird was a player that a lot of people forget, but he was he had a good year that year. Dice, Big Pen both had decent years. And then the following season, we signed Carl Pickens, but that was the year that you hit the all-purpose mark. And I was curious if there's anybody that you see on the current roster, and if not, it's okay. But the way it's constructed, if there's anybody that could come and maybe a same path, like make their bones in special teams and eventually earn a spot and, show out.
Oh, man. Thank you for the call. It's hard to say with this crop of guys because there's not too many guys that I look at from a – Kyle Phillips is a name that comes to mind because, he doubles as the slot receiver as well as their punt returner. But beside him, I don't think there's one guy that sort of excelled at special teams and then plays either offense or defense that just needs the opportunity to excel on offense. Kyle Phillips may be that guy. Will he be a starter, an outside guy? Probably not, but I think, if he stays healthy, his role will increase if, he starts off the way he started off last year, and he ran into injuries very quickly. But I can see Kyle Phillips being a guy that not only will give you production from a punt return standpoint, but also can be a productive receiver in his offense from the slot position. But I don't see anyone, because Traylon doesn't play special teams. Racey McMath, he plays a little special teams, I believe. If he was more of a returner, I can see Racey McMath being a guy because he has the tools, the height, speed, everything to be an outside receiver that the Titans need. So he could be a guy, minus the heavy special teams load, he could be a guy that can increase his productivity in this year's upcoming season for the Tennessee Titans, because right now they need someone to sort of step up. We believe that, Traylon Burks will, at least I believe Traylon Burks will be the guy they thought he was when they draft him, but they need somebody outside of Traylon Burks to be able to go out and be highly productive from the receiver standpoint. So to me, it's Kyle Phillips or Racey McMath.
That's kind of how I feel about both Racey McMath and Kyle Phillips. If you can get a productive season out of them, then great. But it's not guys that I can rely on or say, okay, we have Kyle Phillips and Racey McMath, so we're good. But it's just net positive if you can get something out of him. Devin is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, Devin?
Hey, guys. Quick question. D-Mase. Give me your all-time Mount Rushmore of coaches that you've associated with, either played for, against, or your kids played for. Give me a Mount Rushmore of coaches.
Oh,
Mount Rushmore season.
Mount Rushmore played for or against. I'm going to say first one is Robert Lynch, coach at Mumford High School, because he's the one that finally, beside my brothers, he's the one that finally convinced me to play football. He would always come up to me because I was a basketball player. And it's not like I was great at basketball, but I love basketball. I grew up watching it. And he would come every day and say, boy, you need to put that basketball down and come and play for me. Every day he would see me in the gym room until finally he got me to do that. And obviously the rest is history. So him, number one. And now my Mount Rushmore is for personal reasons, not necessarily coaches that are great, because Bill Belichick would be number one.
Of course.
If that was the case. But then two, George Perlis. He's a guy that he and Charlie Baggett and, some other coaches, they helped recruit me to Michigan State. They saw the talent. They wanted me to come to Michigan State, and they gave me a scholarship. So George Perlis would be on that list. Nick Saban. Because he came in after my second year, and we're only talking about head coaches here.
Right.
So Nick Saban would be on that list as well.
I think he's on everyone's Mount Rushmore.
I think he's on everybody's list.
But personally for you, it makes it that much more special.
Jeff Fisher would be on that list, obviously, because he drafted me. He and Floyd. So he would be on that list. And then, it would be John Harbaugh. Because as much as I like Billick, who, I went there as a free agent, I think it was more so because of Ozzie and that relationship, my agent and Ozzie had, and then me looking at their roster, hell of a defense, and I wanted to be a part of a team because that's what I was used to, a team with a great defense, whatnot. So I wanted to make sure that I went to a team that had a great defense and a young quarterback, and they had a young quarterback. And Kyle Bowler, it didn't work out for Kyle, but he was young, and I felt I could help him. But John, I built a relationship with John Harbaugh, and even to this day, I texted him yesterday about to sign him for OBJ, and he texted me back. So John would be on that list too, But with all of those coaches that I talked about, they all found a way to get the maximum ability out of me. I knew what I can do as a player. I was self-motivated as a player, but those guys found their own little way at trying to, get that extra out of me. And like you said, I mean, hell, Nick Saban is on the top of everybody just about. So that's a no-brainer. But those coaches right there, they mean it's not that they are the greatest coaches in football. Nick may be one of them, but they are coaches that I, from a personal standpoint, this is my personal Mount Rushmore. But these guys all had a hand at either getting me started, i.e. Robert Lynch, and, helping me continue my career after leaving here, a la John Harbaugh. So.
Did you tell Harbaugh what in the world were you doing? Paying Odell Beckham Jr. $15 million?
No, I didn't say that.
I'm kidding.
I just say, hey, congratulations on the signing of OBJ.
As
like,
you should.
Oh, thank you, Mace. I appreciate it. So,
Wes texts in with a question, says, what is the one most important piece of advice that you would give these draft prospects that are about to make generational money?
Man, get you a good financial advisor. Get you some people that you trust. Keep your circle small. You don't need a large circle. You don't need a bunch of people hanging on. You don't owe anyone anything. You may want to give them something. You don't owe anyone anything. And that's even, and I know it's hard for people to believe this. You don't owe your parents anything. That's like me telling my son and my daughter, like, listen, I raised y'all, your mom and I raised y'all for the last 18, 19 years. When y'all make it, y'all owe me this. We were supposed to do that. We were your parents. These are the things if you choose to do that, that's great. But you're not obligated to do that. I had to learn that, when I played. I'm not obligated. I will do things because I love you, but I'm not obligated to do them. So don't ever make me feel that way. So I would tell guys that are about to sign these huge contracts where you're a rookie, or it may not be a huge contract. It may be a mid-level contract, 4th, 5th, 6th rounder, that you are obligated to no one but your kids, and if you're married, your wife. But anybody else outside of that, you're not obligated to them. You may want to help them, and that's great. Help them, but don't ever make them feel like you're obligated to do things for them financially that you don't have to do. Keep your circle small. You don't need a bunch of people hanging on and this and that and that and this.
Leeches.
Exactly. They may say you have changed because you got the money, and it's like, no, I haven't changed, but we are on two different roads here. I'm still cool with you. You're still my boy, but I got, this. I'm not going to play this game forever, and I got to save my money. I can't just be writing checks out to you, and you for every little thing. I just always tell people like this: don't call me, 2 months or 3 months after your rent is due. You knew you couldn't pay your rent the first month, so call me then if you want me to help you. Don't wait 3 months later where it's all backed up and you about to get kicked out. Like, why couldn't you call me when it happened? Like when it first happened, when you knew you couldn't pay the first. That's with anything.
Right.
So don't feel obligated to help people. You help them because you love them, but don't feel obligated. Only people you are obligated to, if you have little ones, you're obligated to them because they didn't ask to come into this world.
Right.
And you're obligated to your wife because you married her, But everybody else, you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to.
Good stuff.
That's good advice.
One last quick one, a fun one here from Troy. Since you're a big hoops fan, Derek, you like to play hoops. You just told your story about in high school. Give me an NBA player you would have loved to play with. Who would be maybe your favorite guy to play with?
Man.
Past or present?
Like play basketball with?
Play basketball with, yeah.
Oh, man. Gosh. Obviously, Michael Jordan would be number one. But besides
You're saying that as a Lakers fan? I can't believe that.
Yeah, I know. But besides that, it's like Magic Johnson. Just like I want to be, on, what was it called? Snatchers with the comedian. What's his name? When he envisioned himself playing with the Lakers back in the day. What was the name of the show? God.
Not Arsenio Hall.
Not Arsenio Hall. No, he was a comedian. But he envisioned himself, and this was back in the 80s when this movie came out. and he fell asleep and had this dream. He had this big afro. It was a white guy with a big afro, and he was playing with Magic and all those.
Oh, Fletch.
Fletch.
Yeah.
Yes, Fletch. So if I could have played with the whole Laker team, it was like, that would have been great back then.
Oh, man. Imagine just playing with Magic Johnson. You know, if you get open, he's going to get you the ball. That's the kind of guy you will love to play with.
It's
I expected you to say that, D-Mase. When you said Michael Jordan, I said,
no, but I'm saying you think Michael's
on?
like, okay, everybody thinks Michael, but it's like Magic is like, because to me, Magic and Kobe are, when you talk about favorite players for me, Magic and Kobe.
Your Mount Rushmore of Lakers.
Yeah, my Mount Rushmore, Lakers, Magic, Kobe, Kareem,
Fletch.
James Worthy, Fletch.
Fletch was a great player.
Exactly.
At least in his dream he
and
was.
then Shaq,
Yeah.
Shaq is up there. LeBron's not up there yet, even though he won a championship in the bubble. He ain't been there long enough.
He's going to work his way up Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly.
LeBron hasn't done enough. He's got to do it just a little bit more.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. As D-Mase, the best question for D-Mase, will win 2 tickets to go see Godsmack. Appreciate all the questions for D-Mase. But coming up next, we asked Elliot Friedman a bunch of questions that we have about Barry Trotz. We all have questions about what this Predators team is going to look like next year, and those can't be answered without the perspective of Barry Trotz. But we got that yesterday. He sat down with Jared yesterday and answered some of the questions that we have. So we will get into that coming up next. And of course, your thoughts as well, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern for the last time this season ahead of the Predators season finale against the Colorado Avalanche. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Mom, we're out of potato chips.
Teenagers, they'll eat you out of house and home, kind of like health insurance, which can take a big bite out of the family budget. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available.
Can we order pizza?
Visit FBHP.com or your local Farm Bureau office today.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Now, your Game Center update.
I'm Nick Keyser. The season finale is tonight for the Nashville Predators as they are set to take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. Last night, they took down the Minnesota Wild in overtime thanks to a crazy goal from Juuso Parssinen.
Given back on the right wing side again. Now looking in front, Parssinen. He scores! Juuso Parssinen went behind the back and between the legs.
What a play that was. Ryan McDonough made a beautiful play getting it to Parssinen.
And the Nashville Sounds are 3-0 this week to start their series against the Norfolk Tide. The Sounds won 5-2 with Keston Hiura hitting his 4th homer of the season while knocking in 2 of his teammates. They'll be back in action tonight at 6:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. And some big changes have been made in Pittsburgh as the Penguins announced that President of Hockey Ops Brian Burke, General Manager Ron Hextall, and Assistant GM Chris Pryor have been relieved of their duties as announced by the Fenway Sports Group. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willy, D-Base.
Stoney Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Cranks it, he scores!
On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern ahead of the Predators matchup with the Colorado Avalanche. And we've had several questions about the direction of this Predators team. Since the trade deadline, we've known that this team's going in a different direction, but exactly who is on board for that change of direction? What does this team look like once Barry Trotz officially takes over as general manager? So we have a lot of questions. And Barry Trotz was on with Jared yesterday, and Jared asked those questions. And I think one of the biggest ones, before you can decide, okay, who's going to be on this team next year? What does this team look like next year? When can we expect the Predators to make it back to the playoffs? When is a realistic timeline for the Predators not to just be back in the playoffs, but be competitive in the playoffs? All of that runs through the head coach. What is the future of John Hynes? And if you would have asked me this, a month and a half ago, when the team was performing how it was performing, when Barry Trotz was just announced as the next general manager, I would have thought, okay, the team is probably going to have a new head coach next year, just given the success of the team at the time and the change of general manager. And then the last month and a half happened. And this team has looked really, really good with the young core. So Barry Trotz was asked yesterday about what are you going to do with John Hynes? What is the future of the style of play for this team? This was Barry Trotz, and also I think I'm starting to learn more and more and more that Barry Trotz has a whole lot to say. So this is a little lengthy, but this is Barry Trotz yesterday.
I always say to coaches, coach the roster you're given. And sometimes you're given a roster that limits you in some things, and you have to adjust in others. So, my vision for our hockey team, I want to be faster. I want to be a little bit more offensive. I want to be able to, be really good on the power play. I think the power play slipped this year. So we're trying to draft those guys. You look at into the future. You look at a Evangelista. You look at a Tomasino. Those type of players are valuable for our future because they've got great offensive instincts. You need to play a style with guys like Roman Josi, who is considered an offensive D, but probably more of a rover D, which is the new style. And then you have a guy like Tyson Barrie, who is probably an offensive D, who supplements the offense. So I want to be more offensive, and I think John has done a really good job. Like, we didn't give him much after the trade deadline between injuries and moving forward players. He's adjusted the team, and they really tightened up in some areas, So, but to me, we've had two teams. We've had a veteran team and a young team. So that's going to be all evaluated. And I do know this. John is a very good coach in the National Hockey League. I listen in the meetings. I try to keep my mouth shut. That's a good staff in there. And it's going to be just fit. And that's you're asking me a hard question. I can't even answer that right now. I think I have to go through all the processes that you go through all the time. So I'm going to do that.
Do either of you get any sort of vibe with the mindset that Barry Trotz is in now in terms of John Hynes?
Well, first of all, I think that was really classy of Barry Trotz to go on there because, like you said with Barry Trotz, when he goes on a show, he's not going to give you short answers. He's going to go on your show and he's going to talk. I mean, and
he
we
gives
learned
his
about
due diligence.
him. Absolutely. So I thought, listen, that's a lot of detail to give when he could have easily just said, we'll wait till next week. It's going to be over. We'll have our big press conference and we'll talk about all this stuff. So to get that information out front, good for Jared, good for Barry for going on there. So, Barry is a pro. But I think I thought the thing that jumped out to me in that statement was there's really two seasons to look at here. There's the season of the veteran players. They had a veteran team, and then suddenly they had a very young team. And the very young team has blown everybody away with overachieving and scrappiness and great positive energy, and doing everything you can to stay in a race. I mean, we know the story, right? Now you go back, if you're Barry Trotz, now he wasn't really on the board every day when the veteran team was struggling, right? When you go back, I mean, this team was sitting there at 12, 13, and 4 on December 19th. And what happened right before that? Ryan McDonough was hurt, right? They were starting to play better. Ryan McDonough took the puck to the face, missed a while. They lost a couple other guys. Carrier got hurt. Jeremy Lauzon got hurt. They had the whole Tovanen thing. They lost Mike McCarron. That was where it really slipped some. Since then, I mean, then there was a stretch where we constantly were having talks, right? They were a little inconsistent, but they were moving in the right direction for a while. They went 14-9-2. So not blowing everybody away, but you were starting to say, okay, now this looks a little bit more like the team that they built, right? Is it coming around? Are they moving in the right direction? Wasn't quite enough. They decided to do what they did, and now they are here we sit with Barry Trotz. So how does he look back before he was sort of in the mix and say, okay, what happened before? And how do I put all these things together moving forward? What's the best course of action? So there's a lot of really tough decisions that he's got right now, because that's not an easy one. It's easy to come in when you've got a total train wreck and you're like, well, nowhere to go but up.
Right.
He's got a couple of different paths he can take here.
I think that's why these exit interviews are going to be so critical, not just for John Hines, but I think for Barry Trotz as well, to get sort of a feel of some of these older guys, what they're thinking, what he expects, what they're thinking, heading into off season. He said it, and it's crazy because it's weird. You and I talked about this, Willie, off air some weeks ago. And I think we were here when we were talking about it, how much of a parallel the Tennessee Titans and the Nashville Predators have been. It's just eerie. Like, if you look at their seasons, they've almost, with the exception, you look at it, they've almost mirrored one another. And, them making it to the Stanley Cup, Titans making it to the Super Bowl, Titans changing GMs, them changing GMs. Getting older players out, younger players in, it just seems like they have sort of followed this same path, not on purpose, but ironically it's happened that way. But like Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel said, we need more speed and be faster. Barry Trotz is saying we need to be fast. We need a fast team, more of an offensive team. So we know where Barry Trotz's head is right now. Like, listen, we know what we had at the beginning of the year, sort of more of a veteran team, not necessarily older, but a little bit older than the team we have now. And we saw how they played. Maybe he didn't get a chance to evaluate that team the way he probably wants to and will, probably next week. But he was able to see this team with a bunch of new faces, a bunch of young guys, bunch of fast guys, and he's probably thinking, this is how I envision this team being next year. So this is the route that we want to go. He said it. We need to get faster.
Yeah.
We need to, the power play needs to get better.
No question.
Exactly. So we already know from a personnel standpoint what he's thinking. We may not know what he's thinking in regards to the head coach, because he said, listen, John Hines is a good coach in this league. He's already said that. He said
that repeatedly.
He played with the players that we gave him, a bunch of young players, and he got the most out of them. That has to be a ringing endorsement to the head coach.
I think that's a really interesting one, because that jumped out at me too when he said, when you're a coach, you have to be able to make it happen with the type of team that you're given, right? You have some input in what type of team you have, but also you got to take the pieces and get the most out of them. Barry Trotz, in those early years with the Predators, I mean, he had nothing. He had an expansion team that it took 5-6 years before you had really any talent, and so it was all overachievers, and he did an amazing job, and he learned a lot there. Then they started to get some weapons, right? And he had to learn how to coach when you did have the horses, so to speak. Then he goes to Washington, and you got Alex Ovechkin. You got established superstars that hadn't been over the top. So he's coached different kind of teams. So I can see what he means with that. And so I think that's what he's got to decide with John Hines. John Hines is a good coach. He mentioned the entire staff. And so the vision going forward is, okay, as the team evolves, as you put it together, is he the right guy to take these guys? And John Hines and his staff, I think, have done everything they can to say the answer is yes. But that decision still has to be made.
And the thing that stood out to me is the same thing that stood out to you, Willy. The 2 different seasons. It's a tale of 2 seasons of an underachieving team with that core
with
and
veterans,
with veterans, and an overachieving team with a bunch of the young guys. And I think however you feel about John Hines, if you want him back, you'll look at that second half of the season. If you want him gone, you'll look at the first half of the season. Barry Trotz can't do that. Barry Trotz has to look at the entire body of work from John Hines, and he also has to look into what resources did he have available to be successful.
And is the shortcoming of the veteran team, was that on John Hines, or was that on just, hey, other things? Like, I don't think it necessarily means that he didn't do a good job with those guys. That's at least where I sit with it. I don't know how Barry Trotz feels about it, but I do think it's a fair question to say. It's not automatic that because a team is struggling, well, coach didn't do a good job there. He started doing a good job later. I don't know if it's always like that.
It can't be just like that. And that's what Barry Trotz, I think, is evaluating is, was it the coach's fault that the veteran team underachieved? Is it to the coach's credit that these young guys have overachieved? You know, what other factors are there? And to what can we credit or point a finger to John Hines and in the body of work that we've seen from this year? So I think that was really the key thing, is how Barry Trotz evaluates John Hines and his entire body of work. But the young guys have become such a huge theme of this season. So how do they play a role into this team moving forward? Barry Trotz was asked about that, and we will get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and I don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Derek Mason, and Chris Sanders as they broadcast live from Twin Peaks and Cool Springs, home of the 29-degree beer, on Thursday, April 27th. It's 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 102.5 The Game for the 2nd annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
Be the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring store-wide sale is coming. April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA-certified diamonds are marked down. Lab-grown diamonds, too. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. You can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Nashville's best deal of the week is Joyland in East Nashville. Joyland is a fun new concept by celebrity chef Sean Brock, inspired by his love for cheeseburgers, shakes, buttermilk biscuits, fries, and fried chicken. Get half off a $30 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy the best burger in town. Find some joy today and eat Joyland for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week. That's theGameNashville.com/deals.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. So Barry Trotz, I don't really know what to call him. Interim GM, GM in waiting, future GM, just GM. Yeah, future GM in waiting, interim, next one. Vice GM, I don't know. I'm just going to call him the Predators general manager. I think that's easiest. Predators general manager, Barry Trotz, which kind of sounds fun to say. Feels a little funky. And we are going to be working on some of our audio over here.
Yep.
But, okay, now we're back.
Hey, how about that? I hit the right button.
Hey, audio engineer Willy.
There's hope for me.
About some of the questions we have about this Predators team going into next season. John Hines and his job security. Who will be the coach next year, whether it's John Hines or somebody else? That was question number one. Question number two is what will be the role of some of these young guys coming up next year? It's a great story in the second half of the season of what some of these young guys were able to do, really with a whole lot of help from the goalie, a whole lot of help from UC Saros. But which ones will have a larger role? What role will that be? And really, how many of them can we expect to continue to be role players for this team next year? This was Barry Trotz and some of the young guys.
Well, I think I probably would say 3 or 4 of them. But I will say this, and I've already talked to some of the young players, is my job is to put the best team on the ice. So if I can get somebody through trade, I'm going to, if it helps our hockey club, I'm going to do that. If I can get someone in free agency, I'm going to do that. So I'm trying to prepare all the young guys that you know, there's nothing ever given. You know, you sort of, every time you come up here, it's a audition. And an addition. And if I can't find anybody that I can say improve our hockey club, say if I have a young player who's showed well this year, and if I can do something to even help our team even more, I'm going to do it. And it might push that player back a little bit. But at the same time, if I can't, that player's got to get an opportunity to do that. So I think there's some players that have made a really good case for the future. And if they do that, we may be a little bit the younger team next year. I hope with the same passion that they're playing with, and I hope that some of these young guys. You have to remember that they're played at a high role, that they're going to be able to produce at. If you're in a you're a first or second line centerman, yeah, you could play on that and play those minutes, but you're going to have to produce at that level. So that's the big thing that you have to make sure that players are ready to do that. And I love youthful enthusiasm, but I also love I'll say the personalities. If you have good leaders and good people, those people can really mold the next group. And I think we have some of those. So
this is a really good window, and I think what we're going to hear more of next week when they have their sort of official, here's our end of the year press conference. We dissected everything. Like Vrabel said, that was a tough end of the year press conference, right? They come in having lost the last 7 games, and you've got to talk about what's happening going forward. So you've got this with the Predators. The last couple years, it's been coming off a really difficult first-round playoff loss. Now you're coming off of a real uptick to the end of the season, but still you fall short of making the playoffs. But I think Barry Trotz has given you a little preview of some of the things he's going to say. Derek, I saw you nod in your head when he was talking about a young player.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a mistake for a fan, as much as you might love what Luke Evangelista has done. You do have to remember, he's really, really young. And it would be a mistake for Barry Trotz to say, oh, Luke, great job these last 15, 20, 25 games. We'll just hand you the spot for next year. You're the guy. You're the guy. You've got to go. His point is you got to go back and earn it again. He's got to have a great offseason. He's got to get better. He's got to get stronger. And he's got to compete for that job and earn it back next year. And he's got the ability to do it. But to set yourself just to be handed the position, that's not what's going to happen.
See,
he hasn't earned it yet.
That's what is so unique about, say, hockey and baseball. Is that because football you can't. It's just like we don't have a farm league that we can send a guy down to. So we have a practice squad, but we can only put so many people on the practice squad. So when you have a young guy, you tend to hold him on the roster, and maybe sometimes a little bit too long because you have nowhere else to put him. You don't want anybody else to get him. So you keep him on your roster, and you don't even want to put him on practice squad because he's still subject for somebody to come and take them off your practice squad. But with hockey and baseball, I think you can afford to, like Barry was saying, listen, these young guys, they exceeded expectations for those 20-something games. But in no way is that a ringing endorsement that you're going to be the guy next year. I want to make sure y'all understand when we go into these exit meetings, these are still things you need to work on. In this position, you did well, but it's not given to you. You're going to have to work in the offseason and come back and show us and give us a reason to keep you up here. You started off well by what you did the last 20-some games of the season, but that's not going to hold you over into next year. You got to prove yourself once again because we have the ability to go and find other players, younger players, and we believe those younger players will give us an advantage. We're going to bring them up and send you down. So don't just sit on, hey, I did great the last 20-some games. Oh, I'm assured to be, on the opening day NHL roster next year. Barry said, no, you're not. I'm always looking to make this team better. Who else have we heard that from? Rand Carthon, Mike Vrabel. We're always looking to make this team better.
Nobody's safe.
Because that breeds competition. No one gets safe. Even though we know a UC Saros is safe, Roman Yossi is safe. Guys like we know those 2 or 3 guys are safe. But those other guys is like, we would love to have you. Give us a reason to keep you on this NHL roster. Don't give us a reason to send you down.
And the safe guys are safe because they've proven
exactly,
that
absolutely,
they can be consistent
over years.
Exactly. These young guys, they've proven that they at least have got the opportunity to be here. Now prove to me that you deserve to stay here. But this team is going to get younger. That's one thing that I took away from that, not just that clip, but the sit down as a whole, that this team's getting younger. Barry Trotz wants to retain some of these young guys. I could tell he loves Cody Glass. He loves Cody Glass. He went on and on and on about some of the things that Cody Glass has had to overcome. He loves Luke Evangelista. Are those going to be the guys that get retained? Honestly, probably, yes.
Yeah. Well, there are different stages of their career because that's something to keep an eye on. And, if you take a look at the roster as a whole, what jumps out at you is you've got some flexibility there. Evangelista is on that entry-level contract, so he can be sent to Milwaukee. He's set for the next year or two. Cody Glass is a restricted free agent.
Right.
So they have to make a new deal with Cody Glass, but all signs point to him having passed all of the tests the last 2 years, taking the time to go through the minors, develop his game. He came back a different player. It didn't happen overnight, but as he got more playing time, he kept growing and growing, and now you got to decide what to do. Are you trying to get for a 2-3 year deal with him? Is it just year by year? That's the thing, but it sounds like they want Cody Glass going forward, but they have to make a deal with him.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I think, too, as we talk about the young guys, there's also a veteran core that we've all had questions about.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Johansson being one of them. And Barry Trotz spoke about Ryan Johansson and his expectations coming off of the injury, and we will get into that coming up next. And we'll get to your phones as well, 615-737-1025. Nashville's best deal of the week is Joyland in East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy the best burger in town. Find some joy today and eat Joyland for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week at GameNashville.com. 1025-1063, The Game.
This is Colton Sissons, and this is Smashville.
Feeds now, Sissons coming on for the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Hey, Robby, Stanley here, and season tickets for the Preds 2023-24 season are on sale now. Preds will be celebrating their 25th anniversary throughout next season. Full half and quarter season plans are available, and you can join the Loyal Legion today and receive the best seat locations at the best pricing and up to 50% off discounts on concessions throughout the season and more, plus priority access to the 2023 NHL Draft and awards, which are hosted right here in Nashville coming up this summer. Check it out at NashvillePredators.com/season tickets.
It's Quaz with Little Harpeth, and I'm just having one of our Chicken Scratch American Pilsners. It's one refreshing beer and a good example of the German lagers that we craft right here in Nashville. Chicken Scratch is made with locally sourced raw white corn, giving it a subtle cornbready sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, Chicken Scratch's closest associate goes by the name of Deer Crossing Hellas, also a lager with a light crisp body and golden color, and it won us a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. So be on the lookout for our craft lagers. And as always, thank you for supporting our little brewery.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea. With smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
1025 and 1063, The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robby and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 1025 and 1063, The Game.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025, The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. Barry Trotz sat down with Jared Stillman yesterday on Stillman and Company, and you can go back and listen to the entire interview. All of our shows are podcasted. You can find it on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook Live. But one question I think we've all had, or at least one gripe that we've had about this season, the theme of the first half of the season before the trade deadline was the veteran guys just aren't doing enough. The guys that are getting paid the most just aren't producing quite enough. And Ryan Johansson was one of them. Of course, pre-injury, but he was one of them throughout the entirety of his season where we just didn't see enough from Ryan Johansson. So Jared asked Barry Trotz about the future of Ryan Johansson. This was Barry Trotz.
Well, yeah, you anytime you have a veteran player who can produce like Ryan, and he has in the past, this year I would say was a little bit underwhelming, and then he got injured, and there's a lot of things. As players evolve, as young players, older players have to evolve sometimes in different roles, or produce at the at a level. Is Ryan Johansson be able to produce at the level that he did in the absolute prime of his career? Probably not, but he can get closer to that. So that will really be on Ryan, and that'll be some hard conversations. He's going to have a great summer. He's had a couple injuries. You think about, you want Ryan to get more, maybe a little more quicker. The game's quick, so Ryan has great intelligence. He has great hands. He really does. He's great on face-offs. He does a lot of good things, but the game's getting quick. And as you get older, you got to get that half second back so you can still make those plays and use your brain like you always did. And he's had an injury that's going to stunt his ability to rehab for a good portion. So he's going to be behind the 8 ball right from the get-go. So you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be firm, and he's going to have to probably train at a level that he hasn't trained in years just to catch up, because he's trying to catch a moving train, and that's hard.
Wow.
Not a glowing endorsement for Ryan Johansson,
but a very honest one.
Yeah,
very honest one, and I appreciate that.
Honest.
And he's giving the pathway to where Ryan Johansson could be a very productive player. Now, will he? I think he set the table with the expectations. If you think Ryan Johansson at this stage of his career is all of a sudden going to be an $8 million number one center, I think that's probably a little unrealistic. But if you're looking at a realistic pathway, a great summer, get back in the best shape you've been in your career so that you can do the things that you do well. That has been the thing with Johansson. The consistency of speed to the game. The game is fast, you heard Barry Trotz. Ryan Johansson, you slow the game down a little bit, Ryan Johansson can make plays. He's got great hands, he does it. But there are nights where he's just having trouble keeping up with the pace that the team wants to play with and that the league plays with.
That's a problem.
That is a problem. And so he said it. What did he say? It's on Ryan.
It is.
He's, like I said last segment, give me a reason to keep you. Give me a reason to keep you around. Give me a reason to keep you on those first 2 lines. Give me a reason to do all of this, because right now, I don't know if we got a reason to keep you as one of those top 2 on those top 2 lines, because the game's getting faster, and you're not even thinking fast. You're not moving with your hands fast. You're not doing some of these things that needs to be done from a guy that we expect this from. It's all on you, Ryan Johansson. This summer is all on you. There's nothing I can do. Just give me a reason to keep you, because right now you're one of those guys. We have a list of guys that we're going to keep. We have a list of guys that we know we're not going to keep, and then we got maybe 3 or 4 guys with a question mark. You're with that question mark right now. We know the talent that you had, but it seems like you hadn't been playing that way. Oh, and you're injured. So give us a reason to keep you on this roster, because if you don't give us a reason this offseason, we're going to do, he said it in the last segment, we want to make this team better. So we're going to do everything in our power, me as a GM, to make this team better. This train is moving down Broadway. You better jump on, because we're not waiting on you. We're going. I've seen the young guys. I like some of them there's still a question mark. Some of them I know. But we're not stopping this train for you. You either catch up, get right, and get on, or get left behind. One of the two.
I think where the Predators are right now, though, they've got 16 million reasons to hold on to Ryan Johansson. But it's what is his role going to be?
No, I think Barry, you know what? Listening to Barry, I don't think he cares about that. I don't. It's there. He knows it's there, but he's not going to sacrifice the team because of a contract. That's the way it seems to me.
Yeah, I think
it's like if you don't get it right, Don't, because I think this is a problem that a lot of people have when they have guarantees. That's why the NFL don't like giving guarantees, because they feel I got this guaranteed contract. I'm good no matter what I do. Barry's telling you quietly, you're not good. Get this stuff right in the offseason and make us keep you. Because right now it's a big question mark. And don't think because I'm paying you $8 million, you're going to be on this team next year. Don't do that, because you're going to be gone. Just like your mama said, I brought you in this world, I can take you out.
I can take you out.
Yeah, same thing. Don't think just because I'm your mama that I won't put this belt to your butt.
It's been an interesting thing to watch over the last few years. You go back a couple years ago, Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene exposed, didn't have really good years, exposed to the expansion draft. That was the message. Look, you're at a crossroads here. We got to see more. They both responded with good seasons. Matt Duchene had a career season. Ryan Johansson had a bounce-back season 2 years ago. And then what happened this year? I don't know where the message is. With a lot of what you're saying, Derek, is a really interesting one, because there are some guys you don't have to tell them anything, right? They're going to give you. It's assumed they're going to have a great offseason. They're going to bust their tails. They're going to come in great shape. I'm not sure exactly what happened, complacency, whatever it was, but there was a drop-off with both of those guys, particularly Johansson. Before he got injured, production wasn't the same as it was even the year before, and the pace of play was the thing. That's always been a thing going even before the Predators traded for him when he was a young player. It was that motor. When he has the motor, he's a very, very good player. Always has been. When that motor goes down, there are games, there are weeks, there are even months where, as the coach, what do I do? What do I do? Do I keep putting you out there? Do I demote you? Do I bench you? John Hines, if you go back through, even Peter Laviolette, he tried everything, right? There were those times, right? Some years more than others. But there's no question that as you get older, it gets harder to get into that shape. It gets harder to stay at the pace you've got to stay at. So that's really the big thing for Joey. I mean, he's got to dedicate himself at a high level if he wants to stay productive.
And that's the thing that, like, if you look at, say, someone like Yossi, you don't have to work, because I think that's, like, some players, that's built into their DNA, like, I just got to work hard, and, their season may not be great. It may be great, but you never worry about them working hard. Like, they're going to do what they need to do to make sure they're ready for a whole season. There are guys like that. But then there are guys that you're like, man, like, you worry about, because you don't know if they're going to do the things necessary in the offseason to get themselves ready. And it seems like they may be thinking Ryan Johansson is one of those guys. And it's hard, like you said, Willie, it's harder to do it if that's not built into your DNA. It's harder to do it when you're older, because now you're not playing off your sheer talent alone. Now you got to become wiser, and you got to work harder in the off season. But if you're not used to that, why are you going to all of a sudden just start doing it now? Some guys do, but it's harder for them to start doing it now, as opposed to, this is how I was at 20, so I'm going to keep it going.
And here's the other factor that started happening. While he was struggling some before he got injured, here comes Juuso Parssinen. Here comes Tommy Novak. Here comes Cody Glass. Centers.
Yeah. Taking advantage
and all of a sudden, there were
opportunity.
certain nights where those guys were better options than Ryan Johansson. So what do you do? And for a while, there were times where it motivated Ryan Johansson to get back up and compete for minutes, right? But it got to the point where I can't hand you these top minutes anymore. I got other guys here who on certain nights are outplaying you. So that's where they are right now. Those guys, those three guys I just mentioned, Glass, Novak, Parssinen, they're not going anywhere.
No.
They're going to be around, and they're only getting better. So that's got to be a motivator for Ryan Johansson. He's going to have to compete for those spots just like Novak and Glass and Parssinen have to.
Ed is on the line with the Preds Thought Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. What's up, Ed?
Hey, guys. The difference between this club pre-trade, pre-injuries, and where they're at now, actually Barry Trotz spoke about that very briefly yesterday, and if you listen to that interview, his goal was this club to be faster, to have more speed. And what you have to do is go back to the Bruins game a couple of weeks ago, the best team in hockey, and the game last night. And those young guys were faster than the guys on the other clubs. In the Bruins game, they consistently beat the Bruins up and down the ice. They beat them to loose pucks. They were stronger on their skates. And I think the upside to this club is not just the youth and the energy, it's their speed. This club right now is faster than the club we started the season with. And in this league, you're not going to win without that speed. And if I'm a guy like, say, Yakov Trenin, that I don't think took advantage of this opportunity, I might be looking for a realtor right now.
Thank you for your call, Ed.
I don't know. I know we got to go to the break.
Yeah.
I do think there was that crossroads, too. Remember what was successful for the Predators last year? They had a little more size, intimidation, physicality. That was working.
The rough and tumbling Predators.
And for whatever reason, early in the season this year, they weren't getting the same effects from that, right? And it did cost them a little bit of speed, as the caller was calling out. I mean, Michael McCarron is a big, strong guy. He's not the fastest guy. You could still play fast, right? They were Tanner Jeannot is a swift skater for a guy as big as he is. He wasn't producing as much, right? So that was another issue besides just the guys we always talk about, the high-paid guys. So just playing faster as a team is also a concept. Like, you still need some big, strong guys in there. You can't have just all a bunch of rabbits.
Yeah.
They're going to get beat up, right? You got to have some balance with that.
Yeah, I think you could tell earlier in the season whenever they played the Avs, for example.
They were having trouble keeping up.
Big team that's so quick.
Yeah.
You could tell they were obviously struggling trying to keep up with the pace of play. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, something that I thought was as good as done in the NFL draft may not actually be that way. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Okay, let's tell you about League Company. Final game broadcast of this season. Tonight starts at 6 o'clock. Max Hers, I saw him this morning, diligently preparing the pregame show. He'll have all kinds of great information for you before and after the game. It's brought to you by League Company. Predators and Avalanche tonight. What's at stake for the Avs? If they win, they are the division champion. If they lose, they will be the number 2 seed out of the Central. So Nashville trying to spoil their chances of winning the Central. League Company's got you covered when it comes to your household and at your business as well. If you're sitting there at work saying, man, I want to get out of here. I want to go to the Preds game tonight, or I want to go to Vanderbilt's baseball game. My son's got a game. My daughter's got a game. And you got that nagging maintenance thing going, I was supposed to do that. Well, I got the solution. League Company. Just go to leaguecompany.com, make an online appointment, problem solved. General maintenance at home or at work, 615-567-1000 or leaguecompany.com. League Company. Let their decades of expertise go to work for you.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's time for the NBA playoffs, and you can get in on all the action from the first tip with FanDuel. Right now, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend when you bet the NBA playoffs. That's right. Just place a 3+ leg same-game parlay or same-game parlay plus on any NBA playoff game, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. I mean, you got to look at the Boston Celtics with Tatum and Brown and Smart, maybe even the Suns with Durant and Booker. And there's so many options early in the playoffs. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/JGM and get a no-sweat parlay every weekend of the playoffs. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with 1 interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman. Weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Along those lines, how does this kind of set up the organization for the future with all these guys getting experience and seeing what they can do?
Well, I think it's great for next year. I think the NHL is it's a league that's not easy to break into, and there's a lot of learning curves and nerves that go along with it. So for guys to get as many games and as big a roles as they did this year, I can't think of a better way to come into the league. So I think it'll play an important role for us, next year.
That was Tyson Barrie on finishing out the season. The Predators with the season finale tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. We will have all of your pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock. On 102.5 The Game. We're out here at Pete and Terry's for the last time this season. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be back next season.
Man.
But I want to get into this before we head out, because Adam Schefter was on NFL Live yesterday and dropped a bomb of something that I was not expecting. Because there are certain things in the NFL draft that I feel like are as certain as can possibly be on a day where everything could be crazy and anything could go wrong. Like in 2020, we knew the Bengals were taking Joe Burrow. In 2021, we knew the Jags were taking Trevor Lawrence. Those things felt as good as done. That's really how I felt about the Houston Texans. I thought it was almost 100% certain, in my opinion, that Houston was going to take a quarterback. Whatever quarterback fell to them at number 2. Carolina takes Bryce Young, then Houston will take C.J. Stroud, and vice versa. I felt like that was as good as done. But Adam Schefter threw a wrench in things. This was Adam Schefter yesterday on NFL Live. Well, yesterday Adam Schefter said that the Houston Texans were looking into different positions with the second overall pick, that it was not for certain that the Houston Texans were going to take a quarterback, and it also was not for certain that Houston would stay at number 2. I was shocked.
Okay. My first thought when you guys sent me this was, is somebody using Adam Schefter and his platform
That's
to
exactly
just
what we
throw
said.
some things over here? Let me throw a little thing over here.
But.
A little countermeasure over here.
What would be the point in doing that?
Well,
like, what is Houston getting out of that?
Create doubt, just to create or keep people guessing. I remember the movie Hunt for Red October. They shoot the torpedo at the sub, and you got to throw the countermeasures out there. Hopefully the torpedo takes the countermeasures, throws it off course, and you keep on going. That's what I think that happens. I don't know. That's my first thought, because I cannot envision any scenario where the Texans do not take a quarterback. Where they're picking and their needs, I just think they're taking the quarterback. End of story.
Yeah, I don't buy it for a single second. I don't.
I don't. I think they will take a quarterback unless there's a deal. And Willie, we brought up the Herschel Walker deal that just blew everybody out of the water. It was like, and the Dallas Cowboys, because of that deal, end up winning championships.
Herschel Walker is famous for a lot of different things.
Exactly.
But in sports circles, the guy was an unbelievable college player. But the first thing you think about is the trade.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
That's so crazy.
What Minnesota thought they were getting didn't pan out, but what Dallas ended up getting and the team they put together because of the help with that trade,
That's true.
they end up winning championships.
But what did they have? They already had
the
quarterback.
Even though Minnie's play a Troy Aikman there, Minnie still got us doubt about Troy. They say, well, hell, he had an offensive line that was the greatest. He had Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, these guys, so he should have won. Novacek, he should have won.
If you've got that squad around you,
it's hard to lose.
Yeah.
But when you, and this was my thing with the Houston Texans, unless there's a deal that is just going to blow them, away, I think they stay at the number 2. And I believe they take a quarterback unless they want so badly CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, and Carolina ends up taking the guy that they really love. And they may look at it as, well, let's try to move down some, still get the defensive guy we want in Will Anderson, and we'll get a quarterback. Because right now we got 3, 2, and 12 right now. So maybe we trade out, maybe we get the defensive guy and then possibly get the offensive guy in the draft. And they may love, like I brought up, Willie, they may love Davis Mills. But they may come from a school of thought of, look at their head coach. He's a defensive guy. They may be thinking, hey, listen, we can do with Davis Mills right now. We build up our defense. We can get to where we're going with the Davis Mills underneath center. Why? Because you saw the same thing in San Fran. They didn't have the greatest quarterback even when they went to Super Bowl. Kaepernick wasn't the greatest quarterback. He had a skill set that was hard to defend, but as far as throwing the ball, they didn't have so they were able to make it to the Super Bowl without having that quote-unquote franchise quarterback. But why? Because they built up that team and that defense was great. So DeMeco Ryans may be thinking the same thing in Houston. Let's build up this defense. Let's surround, Davis Mills with some more weapons and see how that works out for us.
Yeah, we'll set the table with a good team, and then we'll go get the quarterback. I just think when you pick that high and the quarterbacks are there. Now, if the only thing I can think of is they just don't think these quarterbacks are that good. And if that's the case, then all right, I'll see it. I'm not sold.
And my question would be, okay, if these quarterbacks aren't your guys, then what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? Are you expecting to be picking at the top of the draft again next season and then take your guy then? Because if I'm DeMeco Ryans and I'm coming in and I'm taking over as head coach, the shelf life of Houston Texans head coaches has not been very long in recent history. So if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I'm saying, okay, I got to get me my quarterback, and then we'll continue to build from there. I totally see the perspective of build around the defense, give this young quarterback something to work with when he comes in here. But at 2, with 2 really, really good quarterbacks that are viewed pretty unanimously as future franchise quarterbacks, and you pass up on one, I know Will Anderson is good, but is he that good?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's harder to get that quarterback than it is anything else, even though I think Will Anderson is one of those guys, generational talent. But with Will Anderson, you can probably find every 3, 4, 5 years. With these quarterbacks, they don't come around every 3, 4, 5 years.
You don't know when the next one's going to be able to come around, and you don't know when the next time you're going to be able to go get one. That is going to do it for us today. Stillman and Company is up next. Predators in action tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pregame show at 6. We'll be back Monday at 11 a.m.
Be love and love on somebody. Peace.